do it or Mary Jo's going to do it?
I got it.
Okay.
Thank you, though. I appreciate
Unless
it.
you want to arm wrestle for it.
No, not likely.
All right. All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to City Community Development and Recreation Committee. We've got a pretty short agenda tonight, which feels good because we've had pretty long agendas recently. So, all right, we'll go ahead and start it off with an update from the Recreation Director, Ms. Clear.
Thank you. I have a lot of words on the page, but I will summarize. The Recreation Commission last met on August 16th. Primary topic of discussion was discussion of Dumley Park's splash pad, finalizing recommendations, reviewing with the mayor and city administrator. We did hear a presentation from Nicole Key with We Thrive, Hamilton County, concerning some programs that they have that might be of interest to our community. So the commission will be looking further into that. We do still have two openings on the
Annalise,
commission.
Can I
Yes,
slow you down? Can you tell me the person's name again?
Nicole Key.
Thank you.
And I can send this to you electronically too.
That's even better.
Yeah.
Because you are flying.
I know. There is so much. I just don't want to bore people listening to me talk. Okay. So we do have two openings on the commission. I believe Wendy Fisher is interested. I don't know where we are with getting her. I don't know what the process is to finalize her.
I think just saying yes would work.
Okay. Because it has to be officially. She has to be nominated by the mayor.
I was
Right.
going to say, when I saw her that at your last meeting, I don't know if I got a direct yes.
It was like we were doing this. So.
Yeah, okay. So when you tell me that she says yes,
Okay.
then we can go from there.
All right.
They officially have to be nominated. They either have to be nominated by the superintendent or by the mayor. Certain amount has to be nominated by the mayor, certain amount by the superintendent. So they're trying to work that out. But
Yeah.
And she is highly involved in the community, or
Yes, she
very
is.
interested in what goes on.
Yeah.
So,
So the commission will meet next on Tuesday, September 20th at 7 o'clock in the administration building. Regarding events and activities, we had the Wise Park rededication on September 4th. That was a very nice event. It was very well attended and lots of really interesting history. So I'm going to skip my details on that. We had a food truck Friday, September 2nd. Community Cleanup Day was this past weekend. And next up, we have Fall Family Festival and Craft Show Community Block Party October 1st, which will take place in Goodman Business District. Flyers are being finalized now. I'm finalizing the last couple of sponsors. These are the sponsors who are going to actually make it into print, because after this week, they're out of luck. So the banner, well, I don't know if they can see that on the thing. It'll look very similar to this, with our sponsors listed at the bottom. And then there will be a flyer, and I'll print these out also on smaller handouts, like postcard size handouts that we can distribute. There. So that is in the works. And then following that, the next major city event I have is
I keep jumping in. Where is the banner going?
I have at least 3, possibly 5, depending on how much funding I get. The banners will go, one of them will go on the Walgreens fence where we normally put them. And then I was thinking of putting the other ones, there is a fence that divides the property between the high school and the public works, or public safety building, and putting a banner right on either side of that fence, because that gets a lot of traffic, local traffic, and I don't know if we've put banners there before. If I get additional enough funding, then I would like to put one, talk to UDF about putting one in that field that's right there at the end of Goodman, that empty property, and then another one potentially at the credit union facing Walgreens. So from that other side of traffic so they can see.
Is there a possibility that we could put one, I don't know, somewhere closer to like the highway?
Yes, yes, I can.
the entrances and exits. You mean, or
Because like whenever Mount Healthy does something, when you get off the highway and you look at that fence
the first
over
thing you
at
see.
Lakewood,
Yeah.
is that Lakewood?
Lake of the Woods.
Lake of the Woods, they'll post a sign there, so I'm just trying to think where we could, I know our property, once you clear the bridge, then you come into North College Hill. I'm just trying to see where over there we could put something.
Sometimes doesn't I feel like Blue Ash or Mason maybe they put it on the bottom of the bridge.
The
You know what I mean?
overpass.
Of the overpass.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. And we have that one at Clovernook. We have the Clovernook one. Even if we can get Public Works to hang it.
Yeah, my wheels are turning. I think if I scale back the size of the banner just a little bit, they'll be less expensive to print, and then I can possibly get more
Yeah.
for the same or similar amount of spending. So
Except for those ones at the overpass, you'll want that to be quite large.
yeah.
Because people will be driving, not
Yeah.
sitting, well, they might be sitting at a light, but
Right. Yeah.
That's just,
Great idea, so.
Yeah.
yeah.
So we're going to do what we can to help get the word out, and I would love to also utilize those signboards that we have for fall leaf pickup days. Really, that's the only thing we ever use them for. So if I can, get inserts printed when we have events like this, those should be relatively inexpensive. They don't need to be pretty. It just needs to have the event name and date. So, but yeah, I'm exploring that option too.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Actually, it's for the mayor. I was wondering, was the digital sign ever ordered to go outside to replace this sign?
I do not believe so.
I feel like we approved.
Lieutenant Petroselli, you did approve it, but when Mr. Cole was with us, he went out and was getting ready to order the same type of sign, and I said, no, that's not what we want. We want a digital sign. So Lieutenant Petroselli did some research for me, and he came back with some signs, and I think we did find one that's roughly around $14,000 for out there. So it's just a matter of getting it. First, we were looking where was it coming from, where we get the money from it to pay for it. Right. So we do have one. I can tell them to go ahead and order and get it going. I know it'll. Some of the issues was not building, but putting in electricity underground. And I believe that quote that he gave me did include that. So.
Is it wireless, kind of like Bluetooth from the building, so you can type it in and it?
Yeah,
Okay.
it would communicate from, or you would communicate from one of the desktops in here.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I was just hoping Ms.
Thank
Clear
you.
could put information on that sign.
It will go out on the sign that's out there right now, eventually. But I know we have a couple other things happening in between that need to go on the sign before this event, so I'm sure that'll happen first.
Were you able to figure out the event part on Facebook, making it an event?
I am still unable. Facebook has changed how they do things like 95 times in the last 2 years.
Oh, no, yeah.
I can do it from a personal account, but I
But
cannot
from a-
figure out how to create an event from a business account, and I don't. There's a way to, there's like a page manager business suite thing that they've changed, and I can't do it for North College Hill, and I also can't do it for my chorus. So I think they must have changed something on Facebook's end.
Okay.
But that feature right now is not functional as far as I can tell, so.
I know. Okay, gotcha.
I'll have to figure that out. I don't want to take too much meeting time,
What is
talking.
the date again?
October 1st.
Okay.
And it's at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. All right, parks and facilities, Dumley Park. I mentioned earlier, the Recreation Commission did complete our analysis and recommendations for the park, and I'm in the process of going through that with Mayor right now. That's what we were meeting out about actually right before we got here. So we are going through that, and we should have next phase ready to ready to proceed very soon here, I think. So we're almost there. We are still waiting. We cannot move forward with any further actual construction until the parking lot piece is in, and that is working its way through the process of approval right now with council. So that's in process. I'm just going to run through a couple other park issues here real quick. Shaper Park. I have been in communication with Mrs. Shaper Michael and discovered, kind of sort of by accident, but it was a happy accident, that the chamber had volunteered to help pay for new signage and to restore the monument at the park. So I'm working with them. A new fence sign has been ordered, and it will be hopefully done by the end of this week and installed next week. So their family is very happy about that. The monument piece we're waiting on, I am not convinced it's in the most secure location right now, which is why it has repeatedly been vandalized. So we are looking at other places in the park where we can put it where it would be more secure before we invest money in trying to restore it. Let's see. I don't really have any other major park updates other than what's in the written report I'll share, but Veterans Park, I've been discussing with the high school, Miss Hardaway with the high school. She has a service learning class and also a couple of her other classes where students would like volunteer hours or need volunteer hours. And for Veterans Park, I talked to Public Works, and we might be organizing, maybe early in the spring, a volunteer opportunity for the school where they could come and help us put mulch down, plant new plants. And so that would be a joint effort between Public Works and Recreation in the school, which we're pretty excited about getting that going.
I'm sorry, I have a really quick question. This just popped in my head. I was going to Frickers the other day, and I saw that the hoses and the sprinklers were still out at Wise Park. And I'm so sorry. This has just popped in my head. I know it has nothing to do with what you're just saying. Are those out for just kind of like permanency right now, just to get the kind of like flowers blooming, or?
Well, yeah, Wise was next on my.
I'm sorry.
No,
I'll
you're
shush my mouth. I'm sorry. It just popped in my head. I know if I didn't say it, I would forget it. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, you're okay. Just to update on Wise Park, benches have been ordered. I wanted to get that out into video land. The benches are ordered, and they will hopefully be here end of this month or very first part of October. They said about 6 weeks delivery time. The drainage issue is being addressed. And as far as hoses, I'm not sure what the arrangement is with Fifth Third as far as when we can have access to their water. I know they don't like it when we have hoses across their driveway while they're open. So it could be that they have made other arrangements with Public Works to have the hoses out when they're less busy or when they're not open. Okay. So I don't know if that answers your question. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to skip the public communications piece that I had on here. Fund development. Oh, fundraising. Okay, so I think we had talked about in last month's, I think it was the budget meeting, about setting up the revenue account for recreation. And as far as I know, that's in process. I'm starting to get checks in from sponsors, so it's nice to have a place to put them where they are for recreation. And still no word from the CIC about the memorandum of understanding that I sent to them almost 2 months ago now. I know that they can't move forward on that until they're able to meet, and they can't meet unless they have a quorum. So it's kind of in a holding pattern right now with the CIC.
Do you know, since you're our CIC rep, do you know when the next meeting's scheduled for?
Thursday,
It should be the third Thursday this month.
the 16th.
The 16th, okay.
Is that
Do you know
Thursday?
if, so, oh wait, the 16th? So then that's
That's
this week.
Thursday. That's this week.
Yeah, the 15th.
Maybe the 15th, yeah.
So are you guys
Calendar.
planning on being able to have a quorum for that?
Well, usually they decide that the day. It's usually decided the day before or the day of. I
Okay.
think we have to have, I think it's at least 5 people.
Okay.
Did you say the 15th or 16th?
15th, Thursday.
And then if there's nothing on the agenda, that's what happened at the last meeting. So you may want to resend it.
Kind of nudge them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, I can do that.
Maybe you can nudge them too and say, hey, make sure we have this on our agenda. Or or whatever.
Okay.
All right.
And so the last thing I did want to say is that, I've started working on budget for next year, and that has been, my initial proposed budget has been submitted to the city administrator for review.
All right, that all sounds wonderful. Any other questions or?
I do have one question.
Mhm.
You had mentioned a meeting, I think for maybe the commissioners or
The rec commission?
Recreation Commission.
for Tuesday, September the 20th. What group is that?
That's the Recreation Commission.
And-
We meet
okay.
on the third Tuesday,
Okay, and what time is that?
7 o'clock.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, I really appreciate the reports that you give. I feel like they're really useful to us, and they help us make decisions on legislation and help us decide when we need to push for something or hold back on something. So I really appreciate that you put that together. So thank you. All right. Off to you, Miss Zorb. Any updates on Tree City USA that you want to give? I know you said,
Actually, I need to talk to you about it because I thought you had told me that you wanted us to plant a new Christmas tree, but Ron said that he was proceeding with using the Perkins tree.
Well, when we talked, the location, we couldn't do it because of where it was. I said that we didn't think it was a good idea to put a Christmas tree there. And then out front,
I have an additional idea about that original location. Do you
okay.
want me to say it online, or do you want me to talk to you in
Well,
private?
anything said in private generally becomes public record.
Okay, so I'll just put it out there. So our original conversation was to put it at Wise Park, but since Wise Park has like a Jewish foundation, I was wondering if we could put a Christmas tree and a menorah there.
I would not put a Christmas tree there. I
Really?
wouldn't. Mm-mm.
Okay.
That's just me.
I agree. I think they don't believe in Jesus Christ.
That's why I'm saying put a menorah there too.
I'm
But if they
comfortable
don't
with the
believe in
menorah.
Jesus Christ,
but-
they're not very accepting. That would be like trying to push a whole nother origin on them. I don't know. I just wanted to say that, but
I think in addition to, not even just with it being named after a historically Jewish man, I think too, I don't know because I know you guys spent a long time planning that landscaping, and I don't know if that would kind of throw a wrench in it.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, Ms. Zorb, all of you. And I think, I am working with, think his name was Rabbi Zola, because he said there is an organization that is trying to get menorah in the city in different areas. They're very excited about potentially, helping us get one for Wise Park. I think we can put a tree near there. I don't know if I personally would put it within that park itself. I think there's a lot of culture in North College Hill, and we are probably one of the more diverse areas in the city. And, I think that it's admirable, to want to celebrate and recognize, different cultures that are here in our city. I think we got a little bit of time. I think we can noodle on, how can we do this, and, celebrate or recognize or provide an opportunity to recognize the different cultures and areas that we have here in addition to, the Judaism and Christianity. And, I know I've got neighbors on my street from Nepal, there's a bunch of cultures here. And how can we do that respectfully and provide an opportunity without, going over the top, I guess. It's a touchy issue, So.
I would only do something like that out here.
Mm-hmm.
If you're talking about going to different cultures and
Like a festival or a fair.
I would only want to do that
Like a-
here. I wouldn't want to go to one of the parks and do it, if that makes sense. Maybe it doesn't. You go to Veterans Park and you put up a Christmas tree, a menorah, then you have to go into, everything
I still think the
else.
safety building would be a good spot, but that's just me.
It would.
We have a little time to work
Yeah.
through that. I don't know.
It
if we
used to
have
go on the when the safety building was where Italianette is. It used to go on the corner, right on that corner. The tree would go there.
Can I
Madam
Just
Chair.
at one park, then somebody say, hey, I want my symbol at this park too. They could start fixating on parks and you'd have, yeah, they're gonna find a central location.
They could right now.
It what?
If somebody wanted to do that, we would have to accept their request
Yeah.
right now,
Yeah.
Yeah,
whether something else is there or not.
right, just like it. is at
Right, and that's why I
Perkins.
said we need to kind of work through how we
Say
would
something
want to
about
do
that
this.
Right, how do we wanna do this, right?
I
And it-
understand. Just in
And it may not be something for like this year because September, I mean, you got what, 3 months? I mean, you can do a lot in 3 months, but.
Right.
So what I'm hearing, though, is we should slow down on the city Christmas tree. Is that what I'm hearing?
If we don't find another location, we're gonna do it at Perkins, where it's been.
The fallback.
If we don't find another, yeah,
Madam
we don't find
Chair.
another location.
I
Go ahead.
don't know what that means.
I was just gonna say, even if we don't have another like, I guess, can we isolate another location? Because is the tree gonna be mature enough to do a Christmas ceremony? I think we would have to wait
Where?
until next year anyway. But I do think it's important to start preparing for sure for the following year.
That's what I
mean-
said, you got 3 months, you can look into next year, but
Yeah.
you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think I hear Ms. Zorb saying, if we don't find a location, because I don't want to put words in your mouth. I get the impression that you don't want to do it at Perkins. You'd rather have a different location. Because I didn't hear what you said. You said something after I said that location.
I said I'm not getting any clear direction on whether or not we should pursue a Christmas tree
I think that
or a location for that tree.
the issue for at least for me was just that we were getting a different answer from Ron versus everybody else's conversations. So I think it was just we were trying to figure out what.
So I haven't been on any conversation that you had with Ron. So I don't know anything
it was
about
just then the last month's
the
committee
last meeting.
I
So as
had a
far as
conversation with you, and then you weren't at a meeting.
And then
it was
he
while
said
you were
that.
out,
Okay.
and then we had a conversation with Ron.
Yeah.
And
So
that's
what
where
we were just
the conflicting stories came in.
So I knew we had that discussion, and from the discussion that we had, it ended when we said no Christmas tree at Wise Park. So I haven't had any further discussions. The last I knew is that we had confirmed with Mickey that it's okay to use that location. I don't mind if a Christmas tree is out here. Me and Miss Clear just talked about an artificial tree out there in the front or wherever,
Yeah, that's one of those
wherever.
big, tall, like.
I just, okay, as it pertains to Wise Park, I don't think it's wise for us to put a Christmas tree in Wise Park.
I agree. I
I
think
don't.
that would just, no.
I don't. Now, if there's another location, I don't think we should put one in Veterans Park. I don't know that there's where's the electricity? This is what I'm thinking. And if you want it to light up, right now Perkins is the only option, except if we do down by the safety building.
I still think safety building would be great. But I
Yeah.
like
Still
you
think
I mean
what?
I like the safety
The
building
safety
idea.
building.
I just need to know where to go with it.
Yeah.
That's all.
well
So-
good
Can
thing
I
is-
also make one more point, though? If you're putting a sign out there and that you have any inclination to put the tree out there, make sure we put enough electricity for the sign and a tree.
You mean up front?
Yeah.
if you end up putting the tree up front instead. Anything else? All right, I feel like that was productive. All right.
Wait a
Miss-
minute, I do have,
yeah.
is that all you had?
It is.
I do have a question, because I talked to Ms. Clear about it. This goes back to the park. There are 2 trees over at Dumley. One is, if you guys could look at it, do you have the arborist who can go out and look at it? I know Miss Mimi Anderson at one point said she had spoke to someone, and they said the bigger tree was fine, that it didn't need to come down. But the one up against the fence, I've driven past to look at the one up against the fence, and it looked like it's been on fire before.
Oh, jeez.
So I'm not sure if that's something that she does, to go out and check them out to see if you could do that. I know, The bigger one, she said to leave.
I'll have them look at
Okay.
all of them. Is there just two there?
Those are, yeah, like, as soon as you pull in off of, the parking lot side, I'm a landmark driver, so it's on the left. And when you go up the alley and hit the fence up to the right, that one looks like it's been, like somebody set it on fire.
Okay.
And is it almost hollowed out, if anybody else can remember?
I have no idea what you're
Is it
talking
what?
about.
It looks like it's a little hollowed out, I don't know, but it looks
Never
like
got that
it,
She said at the meeting that
It looked like
one of
it's-
them looked like it was hollowed out.
like somebody, like someone had set it on fire. That's what it looked like at one point.
Who would do that?
Could have been lightning, could be
Yeah, it
innocent.
could have been anything.
Could be innocent.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Well, Mr. Mosby, he did let me know I should have taken it out when I did all my other changes to the agenda, but he won't be able to be here tonight for this meeting. But I do know that the comprehensive plan has been people have been meeting. I know that because I live with my mom and she's on it, and sometimes I walk around when she's doing her meetings, but I haven't really heard anything about it. So, any quick updates from anybody?
I did want to mention that they are planning to have, I'm not sure of the exact title of the event, but they're going to be having a community workshop
Oh, that's cool.
in October, I believe on the 15th at Clover Nook. And that'll be open to the public, or they're going to get input on phase 2, I believe, of the plan.
Oh, I love that.
So I believe they're going to kind of make a little mini event of it with entertainment for the kids, I think, and refreshments and things like that. So,
That's great.
but it'll be a public workshop. I do not know the time. I don't know any other details other than that it's going to be on the 15th and it'll be at Clover Nook. More information will be forthcoming.
Wow, thank you for that. That's good to know.
Madam Chair,
Yeah, go ahead.
is there a section of the meeting where we can ask miscellaneous questions? Would that be new business?
Sure.
Okay, great,
Yeah.
thank you.
All right, so next thing's kind of our big chunk. So, poor Bill Dieters, I think, has gotten so many texts, calls, and emails from me over the last 3 months. I think he wants to block my phone number. But nevertheless, I got what I needed. So I met with him. We were just kind of walking through it. A lot of issues started coming up, and he reassured me he could write the piece of legislation for the homeowners assistance fund that we want him to write. But the issues that he and I were discussing were, and I know he breaks down in this letter, which I want you guys to be able to read this letter. I know he spelled my name wrong in it. I'm not that worried about it. But I'm not going to read this letter to you. You guys can read. But some of the issues that he and I discussed: A, do we even know if the CIC wants to take this over? B, we know the CIC hasn't really been able to meet recently, so can we even assure that they'll be able to take this over? Some other things were, if we were to do this, we wouldn't be able to do it as a grant. They would have to do it as a loan, and then they would have to go back and forgive the loan after, the people are living there for 5 years, and we would have to assure that they would have to have a system to make sure that they're going back and forgiving these loans, and it would be much. We also can't. So he can write that he wants the CIC to do X, Y, and Z in this piece of legislation. It doesn't mean that they have to do X, Y, and Z. So if we give them so much amount of money, it's theirs. They don't have to then follow any rules that we give them, is what he explained to me. So his suggestions, which he and I sat there and kind of brainstormed for just a couple minutes of things that we could do instead. He had some really great ideas. He was saying, because I know we wanted to put part of the money into CIC for them to then do grants, and for them to then do the other, and then for us to keep the other part from the renter's registration fee to do, to get money for the welcome packet, to make sure that they have enough money to sustain that. He was saying we could instead set it aside into a line item for, I'm pretty sure he says it in here. Let me read what he says, because maybe. I'm not sure if he even says it in here, but he had this great idea. Oh, he says right here, for rental registration fund that would benefit the city and community more generally. So, I mean, we don't even have to call it the renters registration fund, but basically it's adding a new line item in which they can use for development and for, welcome letters and for different things like that. Just things that would keep people here and keep people happy and make people want to move here instead of doing things that we basically can't. So I know that that's way different than we originally talked about, and I'm glad that I was able to finally sit down with Bill and work all that out. So now that you guys kind of understand where that is. I mean, like I said he could easily write this piece of legislation, but all those concerns are still true. CIC can use it however they want to. CIC currently isn't able to meet consistently, so we can't assure that they're going to be able to even keep this up. We don't even know if they want to keep this up because
Madam Chair, I was going to
haven't been able to talk to them.
They don't want to do it.
Right.
You do know that?
They said they don't want to do it.
That was at our last meeting.
Right.
When I
So,
talked about it.
and I don't want to give money to them for them to just not be able to do it. And it's not that maybe they do want to eventually in the future be able to bring our city something like this. Amazing. If they come to us in the future and say, hey, we know that in the past this was discussed, is this still plausible? We can always change and go back and say, you know what, now that they're able to do it, we'll set aside this money for this. But right now, it's just not feasible.
Right. Madam Chair,
Yeah.
I did read the letter, and it is full of questions and possibilities that could go wrong. And now hearing from Ms. Dukestein that CIC is not interested.
And they were okay with the compliance to do what we would ask
Right.
for them. They didn't want to do it because CIC is made up of professionals that work,
Right.
and this would take so much effort and time
Right.
that they didn't feel
Right,
like
and-
from a volunteer
and that's
standpoint.
exactly what Mr. Dieters addressed. He said,
Right,
if
he
you
said-
do find someone,
Right.
it's very tedious, there's a lot of work to be done, and what if that person says, I'm done?
Right.
So, yeah. So,
Yeah. So another suggestion, he didn't put this in the letter, and he said it just kind of briefly, and it just kind of popped in my mind again. This is his idea. I don't want to take credit for it, and it was a great idea. He was saying we could also put aside this money over multiple amount of years and set aside kind of a plan for it. Like, hey, over this amount of years, we're going to set this money aside until there's enough money for a recreation center, for this thing, or for like a pool, like whatever we would want. We could write an ordinance to set this money aside for 10 years, 20 years, 15 years, for it to then be used for X purpose. So there are a lot of things that we could do with this money. We could also just say, hey, we don't want to do anything. We're going to put it in the general fund, and administration can decide how they want to spend it. I think that's kind of silly after we've done all this work and all this discussion about it.
exactly.
I think we should do something with it.
So, Madam Chair?
Yeah.
In that legislation, we would need to decide what we want to use the money for. We just can't set it aside for future purpose. We need to say a pool or a new building or a rec.
Yeah, I mean, I would guess we could say, hey, we're going to set this aside for 10 years, and in 10 years they can decide what they want to spend it on. I mean, I guess we could do that.
Well, but
But I feel like it's more fun for us to come up with
I
that.
think it's more fun to have a target and an idea, because in 10
Yeah.
years, how many of us are going to be here?
Right.
So if we don't
Exactly.
dedicate what that's for, who knows? Somebody's going to get a great big diamond ring out of it. you know?
Yeah.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
I have two questions about that, or points. Do we currently have a fund for lack of a better term, capital depreciation, or for things that we know are only going to have assets that we have, like playground equipment or buildings or fixtures or anything that's air conditioning, that we know is going to be a capital improvement that we're going to have to do after so many years? Do we have a capital reserve fund?
Not that I know of, and
That
I
would
think that's a
specifically
great
be
idea.
the purpose. It could not be just used for any average expenditure. It would have to meet whatever criteria we define as being a capital, and then there would be a special appropriation request process for that. I know a lot of companies do that, where they have capital appropriation requests, and that you have to justify the expense, and it has to be categorized a certain way. But I'm just throwing that out there as a suggestion. Secondly,
Can I come back? with
Sure.
that? So I have asked for that in the past, and not coming
and it
from
may belong in the next meeting, but yeah.
Well, I didn't come at it from that perspective of the depreciation part, but in the budget, you'll see every department has their own capital lines, and I thought it'd be a better idea to have one great big capital project, but then I was
And-
told no.
Yeah, and again, it's just an idea to float out there, because we know we have these big ticket things that happen, and they're going to happen, and they're going to continue to happen. It's not going to go away. So that was just an idea, a suggestion.
agree with you.
The second thing I wanted to bring up before we go away from this is I'm looking at Mr. Dieter's concerns with working with the CIC, and it's not that anything disparaging about the CIC, but they have limited resources, right? I'm concerned that I'm going to end up in the same situation with recreation if I pursue a fundraising because they're the 501c3. And that I'm concerned for some of these things. Now, a memorandum of understanding is a contractual agreement that says money raised here goes here, but availability and volunteers rolling on and off and administrating that piece of it, those concerns I think are still valid, even if we were to try to do this with recreation fundraising as well.
I mean,
What options do you
So-
have?
Right now, I don't
Sorry, Marjorie.
know of any other than emulating models that other municipalities and cities have done, which is to create a 501c3. And by statute, you can say it has to have so many city appointees and so many volunteers or what. There's models for this.
Right.
Springfield Township does it, Hamilton County Parks does it. There's, but that's one of the ideas, but I mean, I'm looking at these concerns and I'm like, yikes, that could happen no matter what, so I'm back, if I take this and I say, okay, can I apply this to recreational fundraising, I don't get a warm fuzzy.
Well, and I mean, a big part of this is that we were planning on giving this giant project to them. Hopefully, we're not planning on giving like this huge giant undertaking to recreation.
No, and the way the memorandum was written, and just to be general, most of the administrative work would be basically on my desk, or whoever would be, in my role.
Right.
But it would not be that much work for them.
I think, and I agree. I think that yours can be handled through them. So I have on my council person hat and not my CIC hat right now. But I would actually like to revisit this idea, not necessarily for this purpose with them, because my hindsight thoughts in walking away from that meeting was that the CIC is supposed to model like 3C. I always get tongue tied.
501c3.
3CDC.
Oh, that would.
For us here in North College Hill, and that would be the appropriate place to do something like this. So, although they are volunteers, maybe there's a scheduling or a revamping to try to figure it out so that the work is not put off on just one person. I know particularly the accountant was speaking for himself. So maybe that looks like an email or something. So I feel like the next time we do meet, maybe we can talk about how the CICs should support the city and what those limits look like according to those that are there.
Right.
So that's my council hat.
Yeah.
So when I get over there, I have to make sure that
Setting those healthy boundaries and make sure
Yeah.
everyone knows.
because we do need an organization that is 501c3 has that accreditation so that we can do things like this. So it's not if they're going to be that for us and have that relationship, then we need to be able to depend on them to do things like
Yeah.
this.
Well, and I don't think, when I was saying the reasons why I don't think we should do this personally, nothing against CSC. I think they're wonderful and I think they're doing great things. I just don't think that this right now is a thing that we should be throwing on their desk. So that's just, yeah. But my idea, so I love the capital depreciation fund possibly. And I was thinking, I mean, this could just be set aside into a like general city development / like additional city development or recreations funds. I mean, I feel like there are a lot of times that Ms. Clear comes to us, or that Ron comes to us, or the mayor comes to us and says, we really want to put more mulch in, or we really want to get this sign, or we really want to get this, but we just don't have the funds for it. And I mean, just like a few more additional funds. I mean, we can also split it up and say 50% is going to go to, you know, this savings, and it's not going to be touched for 10 years until this big project is available, and 50% is going to be added to the recreation fund. I mean, we could also do something like that, or 50% to the capital depreciation, 50% to this. I mean, there are a lot of ideas that we could go with.
I'm going to be honest. I think we've done a lot. I'll just put my card on the table. I think we've done a lot of work towards what is existing. And per yours and my conversation about code enforcement, we need to allocate some dollars.
Yes.
And so I was telling you, like the Life Spring Church, every year they ask people in our neighborhood, do they need services? To give up on reinvesting it back into like homeowner retention and new home buyers, I feel like would be a disadvantage to us. I don't know what the right answers are, but to reallocate it in a completely different way, it feels disturbing.
I don't think that city development and recreation would be a totally different direction. I mean, I think it would be more of a indirect direction, but I mean, think about why people on Facebook claim that they're leaving North College Hill, or that I rented here and I'm furious about this and I can't wait to get out. Like, I feel like a lot of that has to do with the, you know, code upkeep and them not having any money to be able to enforce that. And then recreation upkeep and them not having any funds to support that. And so I think that we can work on resident retention without directly giving money to people to say, please live here. You know, I think that we can do that without being completely direct about it. That's just my idea.
Could I ask a clarifying question? So what you're proposing is not proposing, that's the wrong word, to continue to use it to benefit residents in an effort to help them stay here, to support them, whether it's through like, you know, partnerships with like LifeSpring or other things, but having some funding available to support that project, which is like it's a project rather than handing an individual resident a check for however much.
Yes.
Then that funding, a portion of that funding goes toward this program, which would incur expense, you know, administrative expense and other types of expenses. But having that funding for that so that we can support these kinds of projects and improvement and make sure we have enough people or equipment or whatever it is we need to support the residents in that way? Is that what you're trying to say?
Even just something like tables for Food Truck Friday. I mean, something like that. Like, it's small, but it has a cost. And when there's not a line item for her to be able to buy stuff like that, her being Miss Clear, or for Ron to be able to buy something like that, I think it kind of puts like a halt on things like community involvement or things like community development or recreation, because there's just not the money there to push those things. And that's just my opinion. I'm not speaking for anybody. But We also have, I mean, we have more meetings to think about this, but I did want to put the bug in your guys' ear. Right now, our two ideas are possibly capital depreciation fund or additional city development / recreation funds. Are there any other ideas at all? Any other hopes, dreams for this money? It's a couple tens of thousands a year about. And I think when Ari was here, she said it was like between 30 to 50,000 a year about. All right.
I'm kind of spread out. I like
I know.
both ideas. I when I initially saw the documentation about home buyers assistance, I got excited about that.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. All of us did.
As a, well, I'm married now, but I moved into North College Hill as a single mother. I would have loved something like that, even if it was just for educational classes or something like that, or just to get me acclimated to the neighborhood. And, I was coming from the city, in which I didn't know you had to pay for trash removal and things like that. So, like I said, I was excited about, the home buyers assistance ordinance.
And I mean,
But in lieu of that, I can see the advantages of having I don't want to say a fund for other things that still may help our community, like you said, helping with Life Springs and bringing things to attract people from other communities to come into our festivals, things we may need that may cause an expense. So I'm spread out there.
yeah. Well, and I think too, I mean, even when you just said classes, I know a big part of what we talked about with when originally we were talking about the homeowners assistance fund, we talked about classes. I mean, this could even be something that we set aside and we say, it needs to be put into this fund, and we'd like for this project that would start off for Ms. Clear to do is classes, and getting classes in here and getting a space for that. And especially with us looking at different properties around the city to possibly acquire, I mean, I think something like that is more feasible. I don't know, I think there's a lot that we can do. I don't want us to think this is like, oh man, our plan didn't work out, this stinks. I want us to kind of view this from a more positive view of like, okay, well now we have this big chunk of money, and yeah, our original plan didn't work out. Let's see if we can do something just as good or better, or something else that can help retain residents and retain buyers. I think there are other ways to do it. We just got to get creative. Any other? I don't want to cut anybody off. All right. And I have in writing from Mr. Dieters that he will get me that firework legislation next month. I asked him for next month because I knew we would want to talk about the renters registration fund for a bit. So I didn't want to put two bigger things on our agenda, especially because I know we have a lot to do in finance tonight. So I just put it on my agenda to make sure we all know it's still there. That'll get to us next month. Anything else? I know Miss Blythe, you had something for new business or old business?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask,
Can you speak into your mic?
Mayor Nichols, I was just wondering, I saw an email, was there a reason, this is just curiosity, why the homecoming was not at the golf course, or is that only the prom in April or May?
It's just the prom. They usually just, because that's a bigger venue. So this year it's called a sneaker ball. So like they're having it in the gym and they have to wear sneakers. So it's a sneaker ball. They generally just have it at the high school.
So maybe later it'll be at the golf course for the prom?
The prom, yes, and
Okay.
it's generally in April. They always have the prom there.
Okay, cool. I saw that and I'm like, oh no. And I was like, oh no, it's a different event.
Yeah, it's more,
Okay.
I guess the prom is more formal.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Thank you. That was my off-subject question.
You're good. Something I did want to say really quickly that we hadn't pointed out yet. Our new Tree City USA placards right behind Miss Blythe. I think it looks great. And I know that
Notice
the signs are up. I think they look great. And I think they bring pride. I think that's wonderful. All right,
Excellent.
well,
Yeah, they do look nice.
they do. Good job, Miss Orr.
Yes.
Madam Chair, I have a very quick question.
Please.
And I'm not sure if this is the appropriate group to ask.
You're good.
But since we were talking about venues, this room in particular is only used a couple of hours a week, and it sits empty the rest of the week. Who is the person responsible for deciding whether or not I could bring in like a babysitting class after school and have it here in this room? If I ask Party A, they say, oh, that's Party B's room, they're in charge of it. And if I ask Party B, they're like, oh, well, it's in your building. So I wasn't sure, because we only really use this room on Mondays, and it then sits empty the rest of the week. So I'm like,
In my opinion, this is called council chambers.
okay.
So in my opinion, I believe it would be up to us. There have been programs that have been held in here that we weren't aware of, and we'd come in, the room be all tore up, and there'd be crumbs all over the place. We're like, what happened in here? So if we had known, maybe we wouldn't have been so shocked by what we saw. So I don't know. I don't know if council wants to play in on that, but I think it would kind of be up to us.
And we don't have to decide right this
I
second.
seem to
It's
recall
just-
that there's something in council rules too that says this room,
I was gonna say it's somewhere.
restricted.
I just can't remember where it is.
I think it's in council rules that says this room is restricted, so we'd have to
Okay.
change that.
And that's that's a bigger discussion.
Oh, it's a
then, so-
cooking class in here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the, when I was in high school, we did a cooking class in here. And I mean, I feel like it was a great
revenue?
space for it.
Revenue?
No, it's not.
No, it was a free
not.
class through Ohio State. It's like,
Good thought.
I'm trying.
So maybe we can talk about that in a future
yeah.
meeting.
I'll add it to my, if I don't put it on my agenda for next month, can somebody yell at me? Or, since I like to take things from other committees, do you want to put it in rules and public policy, Erica? Or do you want me to keep it in here? Up to you. I'll let you pick. I don't care.
Okay. I'm getting all this pressure to have a meeting. That's fine.
Do you want me to keep it in here, or do you want to take it?
I'll do it. I'll do it.
All right. All right. Well, she'll look at it, so it's not going on my agenda. All right. All right. Anything else, anybody?
Marjorie, will you send me an email?
Right now I will, yep. All right, we have 3 minutes to spare. Go crazy before our next meeting. Thank you.
So I sent you all the minutes from last week, or I'm sorry, last month. Did you guys have an opportunity to look over those?
I'm sorry, you sent what?
The minutes
Oh.
from the previous
Yes.
meeting?
I need to be taking minutes, I'm sorry.
If you have any questions or concerns, or you see any heaping errors, just let me know. You can email me. And then, the first item on our agenda is the lead line replacement legislation.
Sorry, really quick. You accidentally sent me my agenda,
Okay.
the Word document for my agenda.
Oh, I did. I'm sorry.
You're okay.
So while I'm sending this to her, the lead line replacement, did you guys, I know that I sent them out really late, but it's very cut and dry. Do you have any questions or?
I'm confused why that's going through legislation. I know there's other people that have had their lead line replaced through the city, through the waterworks.
It's going through legislation because, I'm sorry, let me send this out and then I can have my full attention. I need to send this to Marjorie.
I don't know who wanted a copy.
Thank you.
Okay. Because we have to, so initially council signed an agreement to the waterworks that payment can be applied to their property tax. But as I understand it, Mr. Mosby, doesn't it need to be paid by September the 20th or 20?
No, you are correct. The reason that there's legislation is because these particular property owners have asked that their payments be made over a period of time and to assess their property taxes. What Greater Cincinnati Waterworks in Hamilton County were saying is that in order for that to happen, so that it will make the 2023 tax, that Hamilton County needs it by September the 20th.
And so on this particular one, because they need it by September the 20th, we wanted to bring it to
So,
Budget and Finance because
Madam
we.
Chair?
Sure.
In the legislation, it says September 30th, so I don't know if that, do you mean September 30th? Or should this be changed, or is that how it's, the legislation says September 30th.
I believe that
It says.
may have been, that may have been an error because I believe that it is supposed to be the 20th, but I can check it to make sure, but
Okay.
it is supposed to go in. When I talked to Waterworks and when I talked to Hamilton County, the date that I did have was the 20th.
I'm sorry, I totally missed this maybe, but Ms. Sorb inquired why this is, piece of legislation. Why, what was that answer? Why is this a piece of legislation?
Because Hamilton County requires that we have legislation in order for it to be dispersed for the people who want to put it on their water bill. And that we have to have it in by September the 20th of 2022.
Yes.
No, do you
So,
want a copy?
no, thank you.
Thank you.
So just to make sure that, I want to have as much discussion as we need to, and Mr. Mosby can double check to make sure that it's not the 30th, But either way, our last meeting is the Monday coming. We would need to suspend the readings and get this passed in order to satisfy it for our citizens. It's not for us. I just want to make sure we have all opposing, thoughts out there. This is just for our residents to make them more comfortable at their payment plans on their water bills. So we're doing them the service by pushing it through, in terms of the readings.
So, Madam Chair, can you just explain, I'm sorry, in small words?
So it grants our citizens the benefit of they had their lead lines replaced by Waterworks. And in order to pay back that service provided to them by Waterworks, they want to be able to disperse it over time on their bill. In order to do so, Hamilton County wants us to pass legislation. And so that has to be in by September the 20th, 2022. So it's just something that we're trying to make sure that we push through so that our residents get the benefit of paying over time as having it paid, have to be paid
One lump sum.
one lump sum. Okay. So just making sure. Go ahead.
So these houses have not had their lead line replaced yet?
I
This
think-
is just,
They've
Two.
had their lead lines replaced.
Yeah, they
haven't.
have.
This, yeah, they've had it, yeah.
And so this is their way of guaranteeing their payment, putting it in
Waterworks
writing.
way up.
yeah.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, Madam Chair.
sure.
They'll see in section 1 where it says the following properties having completed their lead line
Yeah.
replacement, so it's,
There's a list on there, on that document that I sent out.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
what makes these few residents different from thousands of other residents? Are they some of the last people to get it done due to financial difficulty, or?
No, they just extended that offer, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. When we went into the agreement, which was 2021, I believe, that choice was offered to certain residents. If they needed their lines replaced, they could either pay it one lump sum, as Ms. DeWald had mentioned, or they could pay it over time with an agreement between the city, Waterworks, and Hamilton County.
So just these few residents, what about the rest of the residents? I'm trying to
It was
figure out
offered to
why,
everyone.
why are they different from other?
They're not. It was offered to, Ms. Dorp is correct. It was offered to everyone.
Oh, and these are the only ones that took it up?
So I know several people that had their lead lines replaced, but they paid for it themselves just as a lump sum payment.
Okay, gotcha.
So I guess these are the people that basically want to finance it, for lack of a better term. Is that
Yeah.
fair? Is that a fair statement?
I think so.
Everybody okay with that? And we move on to the next item on the agenda? Which is the legislation of the impound, I'm sorry, not improvement of Hamilton County.
Yeah, I got it.
you mean Hamilton Avenue.
Yes, did I say Hamilton County? I did.
Yeah, threw me off there for a minute. Like,
Rewind in my mind. So that legislation is also included in the packet of documentation that I sent out. So before the work can be, get started, we have to have the legislation in place. And we want to create alignment with council and administration. So that's the purpose of this one.
We want to create a what? I'm sorry.
Alignment between administration and council. But they want it passed before the work can get started.
and this is in conjunction with Mount Healthy. Have they passed this piece of legislation, or is that
Yes.
not? They have. Can I ask why we're getting it so late then? I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Hamilton County had contacted me. I think when I talked with our engineer, we did have a bit of I don't even want to say it's a misunderstanding, but we were trying to determine where the money was going to come from. So there were two sources. One source was SORTA, and they would have been able to give us the whole amount. The problem with that was, which was unbeknownst to me at the time, but that money could not be used for design and engineering. And so these funds, which are county MRF funds, these funds will be able to reimburse us for those costs. So that's why.
Thank you.
Any questions or concerns or discussion further about that one?
I'm replaying something in my head, and I'm trying to figure out if it fits into this scenario. I thought we put I'm going to throw out a number, like $485,000 for the Hamilton Avenue project. Didn't we do that? Wasn't there something like that?
I was, sort of, yes. Back in 2020, I had indicated that the state had told us that we were going to have to put in $593,000. And I had mentioned at that time that that was going to have to be money that we were going to have to pay into it ourselves. Since that time, we were able to get funding. This is what you have before you as part of that funding, a small portion of it. And then since then, we were able to also get the SORTA funding, and we were also able to get skip funds, excuse me, I'm sorry, which basically then takes care of the entire amount.
Awesome.
Awesome, except what's the plan for the $593,000 now?
What do you mean?
So we had set aside $593,000.
Correct.
Do we have
Well,
a plan for that?
we won't use it for that. We would be able to use it for different projects.
Is that in the street fund, or is that in the general fund?
No, that would be in the street fund.
Okay, so then we have the senior levy. And that is also included in your packet. Again, I know you guys got the packet really late. We were just waiting on all this stuff to roll through. It's a pretty hefty load this time.
So, Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'm a little confused why this would be on the ballot then, with the senior center now being defunct.
The reason initially was so that we could make sure that there was enough time for council to, deliberate it or discuss it, and then, because as you know, Mr. Wall, there are two steps that have to take place as the first step. There was an inquiry about what we would do. Now, it's important to note that as long as we have a plan for how to use the funds for our seniors, then it would still be viable. If we did not, then Hamilton County would say, you all don't need to use the money. So I know that that Kirsten has already been putting together a plan to show how we would project to use the funds that are coming in, because obviously we still want to be able to provide for the seniors. Now, in the past, so just to be clear, especially for newer members of council, I'm actually glad you brought this up. In the past, what we, the city was simply an agent for that money. So when we would receive the tax proceeds from the county, we would just turn around and give that money to the senior center, which was a nonprofit organization. At this particular point, because that organization no longer exists, we wouldn't do it that way. So we would have to hold on to it and then either use it, to contract with other services to provide the certain services, whatever those services would be, and then we would use the funding to provide for it that way.
So when can we expect to have that plan? Can we expect to have it before we vote to put this on a ballot? Or are we expecting to have that after we vote?
Well, basically what you have in front of you is the resolution of necessity.
Right, so if we vote yes on this, it would be put on the ballot. If we vote no on it,
No,
right?
no.
No, okay.
If you vote yes on this, that simply says that we are determining and that council is saying, yes, we do need the funds, in which case then we would get the certificate evaluation. Then you would vote on a resolution to proceed. But to answer your question, the amounts that that Kirsten would do would be included in the 2023 budget.
Okay, so if this were to pass, all this would be saying is that we do need the funds, or that we feel as though we need the funds, and then we would vote. Okay, that makes sense to me.
So when this passes, this goes to the
Right.
auditor, and they tell us how much money it would acquire,
This-
accumulate, or
Right, the second set
collect,
of
whatever
papers
word you want to use.
will tell
So,
us
and
how
then they
much
come
it
back
is.
and tell us how much money this would be.
Right.
And then we vote
I'm now
for it again.
recalling from the fire
Yeah.
levy in that
Yeah.
process.
Right.
Okay, cool. Okay, thank you.
But
Okay.
I think I'd like to go down the path where you were with the plan, because to me, I see stuff in the budget all the time, and that doesn't necessarily tell me what the plan is. So I would like to know a more definitive, I'm
Well,
gonna use
I-
air quotes, plan, what the plan is for that money versus just putting it in a line item in the budget.
Okay. And so I would say that we need to, if we're okay with the levy, then we need to move on. You can email them, and I'm not trying to be short. We need to stick to the agenda because we got a very weighted agenda, and I do have a sick little one at home tonight. So if you could send Mr. Mosby the information about the plan, and he can
Yeah.
get back with you on
Madam
that date.
Chair, I understand your crisis at home, but we need to know what the intentions would be if we have that, any idea.
Well, and as stated, the intentions are, for now, we are going to use the money for senior purposes. We voted on that in terms of pursuing the building and are committed to continuing to try to provide the best we can, or they are trying to provide the best we can for seniors. There isn't an actual date of a plan. If you're needing a hard stop date, that can happen through email. But like to give a plan tonight, we
So,
just don't have that on our agenda.
You said pursuant to purchasing a building.
No. I didn't say those
You
words.
said something about purchasing a building.
Well,
Didn't say purchase.
no.
Anyhow,
I
let's,
said pursuing the building. Remember, we talked about in our last
The senior
executive
center
session.
building.
Yes, not purchase. If I said that, I didn't mean to say that, but I just said pursuing the building. That's what I thought I said. Is that okay? I mean, if you guys want to comment, I don't want to take your opportunity to respond away, but I just want to push it.
Well, I think this is a great start to say that we have intentions on maintaining some type of activities for our seniors. In the meeting previous to this, the question brought up about this room here. I mean, I don't know how many of them show up for events, but typically, even if we don't acquire that building, after it goes through rules and public policy, maybe that's but I think this is a start to say that we do want to maintain those services for our seniors.
Right, and then there are other ways, in my opinion, to provide services for seniors that aren't just a senior center. So I get, still wanting to pursue this. It's just nice to have a plan, so that way we're not just saying, oh yeah, we need this money. We don't know what we're going to spend it for, but we need this money, county auditor, thanks. So that's, I think, more what we're kind of leaning for. And I understand you're not going to have a plan tonight. It's just nice to know when we can expect that. I've learned recently that giving deadlines gets more of an answer than not giving deadlines. So it's just nice to kind of have a time for people to work towards.
And I'm okay with the deadlines. I'm just saying, you email them, and then they can get
set it right up.
something solid as opposed to trying to come up with a timeline at this meeting.
I mean, it has to be from both sides. What do you want to see? Not just necessarily what do we want to see or what we think should happen. I think it comes from council and administration on, we can we can go out and say, this is what we want to do. But if council comes back and say, well, no, we don't want to do that, we don't think that's a good way to spend the money, then.
Right.
So this, part of the first part of the plan is to continue some type of services. What those services are, we just need to, figure that part out.
And just to add on that, I think it's nice to hear from the seniors and what was most important for them to keep, throw away or whatever. Some things that were not as important. I think she had said that the person running it said that they would keep the Meals on Wheels, or she had already done or figured it out, or what the Meals on Wheels would look like. So that's not something that we needed to continue or try to do. So I think, like I said, or I'm sorry, I didn't say this. Mayor Nichols said there's a commitment to the seniors to continue in some effort. And based on the last meeting when they came, I feel like overwhelmingly we all want to see that happen.
Absolutely.
So I don't want to rush through. I just want to reiterate that I definitely think everybody's for the seniors and keeping something active for them. And right now, even though it's not still running, we still want to keep this in the process so that we will have funds to put towards whatever the plan may be. So, okay, quarterly report.
Okay, so what I have.
Can you speak
Did you
into the mic?
did you put it on the, are you putting it on the PowerPoint?
No, that's why I just emailed it to you. It's just those few sheets.
Can you?
If you don't speak in the mic, the people at home can't hear you.
Is somebody missing the lead line in their packet?
I've actually got 2 copies of the lead line myself.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so, can you hear me? Is that better? No, this
No,
is
you're
not
gonna have to
working.
talk right into it.
That one may not be on. I know this one is. It missed. Okay, can you hear me now? Yeah?
He says, yeah.
He says good, so we're good.
Okay, so Ms. Dukestein and I met for the Finance Committee pre-meeting and went over some things we thought you might like to see. So what I've done on the Excel sheet that was sent to you, it's got the general account, the payroll account, the relief fund, and the tax account, and it compares 21 to 22 as to the deposits, the checks, the transfers, so you have an idea of where we are. Now, I did get the audit adjustments put in for 19 and 20. I just got the audit adjustments from Robin late last week, so those won't post until I close August. So those aren't reflected in the numbers, but this is just April, May, and June. In the backup that I sent, just so you can see what the county does, they do send me emails every month that shows what they have deposited into our account, and those numbers are reflected in the April, May, and June. Now I am also working on, which I did not forward because it's not complete. I have a forecasting budget that I'm in the process of doing, which will show you your budget from 2021, 22, then what your actual 23 budget is. Then you'll have the budget amount, the actual, and if there's a variance, so you can see month by month where we are high and where we are low. And obviously, if we're high somewhere, I will have the backup for that stating, this is the reason, maybe we needed more salt, maybe we needed more fertilizer, and that will be reflected in each month. And of course, any feedback from any of you as to what you would like to see that would be very helpful.
So the goal behind this, and I am asking you all to give Kirsten,
Thank you.
bless you, your 2 cents, because I want to make the financial documentation a bit more transparent and a lot easier to follow. So the goal behind this is to give a comparison to 2021 to the current year, so that you can see what expenses were last year, the variances and what they changed, big buckets. If this isn't clear, please do give her, me, all of the feedback, so that we can get to a document that is satisfactory to what is needed to make good fiscal decisions.
I have a question.
Sure.
At the bottom of each one, it says, and maybe you said this and I was just typing and didn't quite hear you. It says book balance. What does that mean?
That would be what the software balance is, like CMI.
Okay.
And the reason it is not in there for the general account is because I haven't had the 2021 ending numbers. And I thought putting a number in there is not even a correct number.
So what exactly does that mean? Like if I say, like, what does that number mean?
So let's take April of 22.
Okay.
Your ending balance from your bank statement is the 4.9 million in change. My book balance with my outstanding checks and any outstanding deposits should better equal that 4.9 million.
Okay.
So that's just showing you that what we have in the computer is the same thing that the bank carries.
Gotcha. Okay. Perfect.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
you and I spoke earlier, and you said you had gone through a line-by-line item. Is this the line-by-line item you referred to?
I'm sorry. Say it again.
You and I spoke earlier about you went through a line-by-line item. Is this the line-by-line item you referred to?
Earlier today?
Yeah. Right a few minutes ago. That's all right.
I'm sorry, I don't remember saying that, but was I talking about this?
Yes,
That's the question, I think.
never mind.
It's okay.
It's not-
No, go ahead. Say it
It's not
again. I
important.
mean, I have to understand what you're asking.
Right, my only question was, is this what you sat down with and spoke?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes, this is it. This is,
Okay.
and this is, yes, this is what we went through to try to derive something that's going to be a bit more transparent, a bit more able, like that big, so you all will continue to get those monthly reports where where we're looking at every line, and it should line up with these.
Okay,
So you got those. She didn't send those out, and she specifically sent me an email saying she didn't send those out again because we actually already got them. They were in the financial, because if you remember, this quarterly report is yet again from August. So we're doing April, May, and June, trying to get the quarterly report right and something that we can all palette. So if you take what was sent out to you before in a comparison and contrast to these bigger buckets, they should all match up. She's just giving you more of a presentation of an overhaul so that we can have, so you have the very, very fine specifics, line by line by line, if that's what you choose. And then you have this bigger bucket document that kind of gives an overhaul for a more appropriate way to deliver a quarterly report. Both are there.
okay, I just want to say that to make financial decisions, I don't think that this report is thorough enough. I think a line-by-line item is what's needed for our finance group
You
here
have
to
the
work.
line by
I
line.
understand that. I'm just saying, I just don't, well, just my opinion.
So what, and that's fine. Do you guys want her to go through line by line?
I want us to go through line by line when it comes time to do that stuff.
And that's fine. That's why we sent out the documents. And so last month to this month, if you want to bring questions, I'm okay with that. I feel like they're okay with that. Then you have the information to look through. You have it for the last 3 months. Well, the last quarterly 3 months, which would be April, May, and June. And if you want me to resend those documents, I can. And again, in we sent them out very last minute, and I said to you all, we're going to do this again in September. So if you have an opportunity to look through them, highlight what you want, and we can help you figure out where they are in this bigger document.
So to match these up, I mean, there's no line items here, and it's a very big number. So, I mean, look, how can you match these two up?
And I can have Kirsten send to you how these buckets are broken up so that you can match them up. And that's what today is about, making sure that we have direct communication so that she knows how to give you the information so that you can match them up. We moved from a monthly report to a quarterly report, and I didn't want to lose any transparency. So in order to get this right is why we're here. We're having this discussion. If you notice, like I said, we had a quarterly report for the month of August, and then we're here again in September, just trying to get something that looks more like what is needed so that we can make good fiscal decisions.
Right. And I do have a question for you, if I could, please.
Oh, absolutely.
When you do these larger reports, could you put lines in there? It's just Excel, correct?
No, that comes straight out of CMI.
Oh,
Now, I can take it as a text file and then put it into Excel, and then I'd have to manually just delete all the excess
I'll just use a
lines.
ruler. Never mind.
I'm sorry, that's just how
That's
CMI
okay.
processes
That's fine,
it.
thank you.
So what I hear you saying is that they want to identify how these bigger buckets are broken down, what line items fit into these bigger categories. Okay, so can you follow up with an email to say how these bigger buckets are broken up to everyone?
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Sounds good.
Go ahead.
So, so basically we're looking at 4 buckets, right? What was the catalyst that made you decide to pick these 4 buckets? And I
The
get,
accounts,
yes.
I didn't, and that was another question, I didn't know which accounts you wanted to see.
So I have a request of what I would like to see. Anything that has a variance of, I don't know, let's pick a number. Like if a certain amount of money gets spent out of a certain line item, that's the one that we would want to see. But I don't know what that number is. Anybody got any ideas?
About $50.
$50.
Honey.
I'm literally throwing something out because I don't know. So we want something more than $50.
Yeah, because there's a limit on, I mean, administration can spend up to,
50,000,
Yeah.
right?
$49.99.
yeah, without
So
council's
maybe
approval.
10,000?
No, we can spend up to $50,000
No, I know
without
what I'm
council's
saying.
approval.
If something is spent within 10,000, we
but-
see it.
But if you
But the other side of this coin is, that's really the stuff, because you guys don't need our approval, therefore, we don't know it was spent.
Yeah.
That's kind of
Exactly.
what I'm trying to
But
catch.
you would know it was spent once you got your
Right, but it's easier
the
to see.
documentation.
It's easier to see if it's pointed out, because when,
Right.
when we get tons and tons and tons and tons and tons, I'm not looking at every single number and trying to figure out how much is spent in every single line. Where if we can say, okay, if 5,000, 10,000, 11,000 is spent out of a single line item, can you please highlight that line item in the next quarterly report? Not because we're trying to watch you, but that way, we're in charge of the budget. We want to know how it's spent.
Can we say 30? And here's my theory behind that. For one, it leaves her from having to search out anything that's super, super tiny. And 30, because 30 is in increments of 10. So if $10,000, $10,000 was spent out of the same line item over a 3-month period of time, it actually tracks it tracks a $10,000 amount for each month. Is that
So we're looking over the period of the quarter more than 3,000. spent out of a line item.
She said 30. not
30, I'm sorry, 30.
So that would be
Line item.
$10,000 a month.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
So, if I understand you correctly, then payroll would automatically be on that report. Because clearly payroll is over $10,000.
And it is.
It already
It's
is on
it
this
now.
report.
Correct.
Yeah.
Can we have that sent in an email?
I'll
What-
send it to
What
her.
they suggest,
Send it to you. Or,
send it.
Kirsten?
You can copy me as well, just so I'm aware
Okay.
of what should be on the report.
I'm just going to go back to my previous statement, because that's kind of why I asked what the plan was, because just because something's in the budget doesn't necessarily mean that we know what that money was spent on. And that, I feel like my mind just went full circle here, because that was exactly my point before about the senior center.
Well,
Well, you know, for some levies, they're only going to be spent on that.
right.
you know,
you can't
yeah.
legally spend it outside of that. And so I understand what you're saying in terms of wanting to track the spending, but as I understood it, I thought the question was more about a solid plan, and they don't have a plan just yet. So we can.
And I get that. That's why I didn't press the subject. I understand that there is not a plan in place currently, and I get that it's being worked on. But for me personally, before I would vote for the levy to be back on the ballot again, I would need to see a solid plan and not just a line item in the budget. That's my personal opinion. That's where I
a
was.
commitment to the seniors. Okay, that's fine. So does anyone else have any ideas or thoughts about what might be appropriate to track or to see big buckets? You're saying big bucket items, large spending amounts or spending amounts. So does anyone else have a suggestion on,
Madam Chair,
please?
I'm not trying to be difficult. Please, so usually when somebody says they're not trying to be difficult,
They're
are
going to
being
be
difficult.
preceded with
Right.
difficulties.
So,
Go ahead with your difficulties.
okay, so I'm looking at this, and this makes zero sense to me.
Amen.
Okay, nothing. Could be why I'm a lawyer, not an accountant. Okay, I'll take that. But, I mean, if we're responsible for this, I don't know if dumb it down is what I'm trying to say or something, but I don't understand what I'm looking at. So I feel like I'm being given some information and being told that this is transparency, when in fact it's not. Because I can give you something and say, I'm being very transparent, but it's written by a lawyer in what we call legalese, which is some made-up stuff that lawyers make up words all of the time. And, yeah, whereas, and therefore, and where to. No point for those words whatsoever, but we put them in legal documents all the time. Why? No reason. So, I'm just saying that, and I promise, I'm not trying to be difficult, but this means, I don't know what this means.
I keep coming back to the.
So I
You can see
think,
this PowerPoint with words that would said, we're on track here, we're not on track here, we're gonna be on track here because of this thing that we're changing here. And I mean, it helped.
Just so I'm clear, you would like to see a report, because there's a who, what, where, when, why. So when I look at this, for me, I see, okay, they're talking about the general account. This is my beginning balance. This is what went in, what was paid, went out, and left me with an ending balance. Beginning balance, ending balance. What went on just on the surface in between there. So for clarity for me, in that email as well that Ms. Dukestein is going to send, what is it you want to know? Who was paid, what was paid, where it went? Because that
okay.
document there says out of like, that Ms. Dewall had.
Okay.
so that's what I wanted to say. You guys do realize you
Okay.
have both.
This is what I want.
I'll give
Okay,
you-
and that's going to continue to come.
There is, I mean, right. But, I mean, there's a lot to look at, and council's going to have to train themselves to look at every line item. I've talked to council members from other cities, and they wouldn't dare pass a budget without looking at every, it takes them hours and sometimes weeks. We know it's a big job, but it's something that has to be done.
And I hear you. So I am not trying to stop that. I just want to make you aware that you do also in your emails have those very individual documents, and you are free to go through those line by line and bring your questions forward.
But I'm gonna be
It
honest.
sounds
I
like they
also-
don't want a quarterly.
I sent that
That's what it
in
sounds like.
August.
It sounds like you don't want a quarterly.
So the
Okay.
quarter report.
I don't know that that's what I said at all.
No.
Oh, you didn't.
No.
I just said that. I said I don't know because what I'm hearing, and
No,
correct me if
I
I'm
just-
wrong.
No,
I'm
I just said
hearing-
I don't understand what this
right,
says.
that this isn't detailed enough.
Correct.
Is that what I'm hearing?
So, in
So
addition
the-
to that, I mean, at
Madam
least
Chair.
for me, the big detailed one, I also kind of look at that and just go, okay. I mean, none of that tells me, are we on track? Are we following the budget? Are we
That's
taking things out of the right
the feedback for
buckets?
Kirsten, because I was telling her when we talked, those are the things that you wanted based on the feedback. So in the email, I will give her that detail. You know, are we on track? We talked about that. We talked about details. We talked about PowerPoint. We talked about a document. This is a kind of overview because actually, and I don't want to go backwards because there are some things that Ari was doing well and there were some things that she was not doing well. We want to take what she was doing well
Right, exactly.
and keep and continue, and we want to improve the process. So the thing that I do know is that you have the detailed month breakdown if you would like to go through that. But I'm also trying to give you that quarterly report that highlights larger spaces where there's like, oh, we didn't know that that was happening. So it's easier to see bigger buckets over time than it is to see $5,000 here, $2,000 there, $3,000 there. But if you compile that over a quarterly report, and there's a $30,000 disparity right there. Where did that come from?
So, Madam Chair, even this report is not easily read. The one that we're accustomed to has 2019, 2020, 21, 22, and the projected 23. So we can see what those numbers are and how we're doing with that. I don't know why we can't have that kind of report.
Madam Chair,
Oh, I better.
so
Yes.
if I may, because I am hearing some things and it is becoming clear. So we're talking about 3 different reports right now. And I would like to perhaps maybe bring some
Clarity.
to that. So if we start, if I may, with Ms. Underwood's concern, which is the report that you all have there is just simply a snapshot of our cash position. That's all it is. So for those 3 months, at the end of the month, overall, it just gives a summary. This is what we began with. This is what we received for that month. This is what we paid out and ended up with. And that's all you have. And you have that and you can compare the prior year with the current year. So, okay, so there's that. The second report, and Ms. Anderson brought up a point that I would like to bring out because she mentioned that she wanted to be able to see something that would show kind of what was budgeted and then, you know, are we on target? Are we over? Are we under? And that is exactly what that
Quarterly report does.
the lengthy monthly
the
report,
monthly report.
that is that. And it is a lengthy report. And it actually breaks into 2 different groups. You have our revenues, and so all of the revenues are put into the one report. And when I say revenues, what I mean is, because in our budget, we have to project what we expect to receive in each of those appropriations, okay? So it would show you what we projected at the beginning of the year and then how much we received and then what percentage of that budgeted amount or that allocated amount we've met at this particular point. But I agree, it's a very detailed report and it has all of the individual lines on there.
So, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
So this.
Wait a minute, I just want to capture something you said. You said it went back over a span of 3 years. So 19,
Well,
so
the
for
last-
example, in 2022, we would be looking at 20, 21, and 22?
Yes.
Right, it was 2019, 2020, 2021, 22,
Right.
and then the projected for 2023 eventually.
Right, and I haven't talked about that report yet.
Right,
That's why
so-
I wanted to finish up with Ms. Anderson's, and then I was going to get to yours.
So on this particular report, I don't see where it says this is what we started with. It says REV, EST, REV. We don't even know what that means. The next column says MTD receipts. We're not accountants. The next one says year-to-date receipts. Okay, so that would be month-to-date receipts. I understand that. UNC balance.
Unencumbered.
Okay. I mean, it's not easily read.
No.
I've been doing this for a long, long time, and this was like Greek. So I am complaining, but I'm trying not to be.
Where did that come from?
Oh, we got this
Got that.
a month or so ago.
Who emailed it? You?
I
sorry.
emailed it, but I got it from Ms.
Yeah.
And that is the same report, by the
Vanderbilt.
way, that we've been getting, because CMI is the same program that we've been using for
Mrs.
almost 20
Sewell,
years.
Is the date one, is that generally, for some reason, I'm thinking that's the final one when we do the budget that has the dates at the top.
Correct, that's the one
This
that
was done
Mr.
for
Wall
the
was
month
asking
of
about.
April, and we received the report in June of 2022.
No, I'm talking about the one where it has the
Talking
dates at the
about,
top.
right.
I
Oh, I
think,
don't have that with me.
I think that's the one for the budget for the
Yes,
When we're approving
following
or
year,
not
but
approving the
are you saying that you want it for every report, or
I
because we
mean, why
generally?
couldn't we have that quarterly?
Because that's the thing, okay, so we need to we want to deliver the information and transparency, but it feels like to me that we're merging a bunch of different reports to create what we should be getting on a quarterly basis. So are you helping to identify the different reports that we've received in the past so that you could get to the part that some of what is being asked is being delivered over multiple different reports?
Well, yes, exactly. So when Kirsten created, for example, this one that has the balances on it, that was one that she created from her own spreadsheet. The one that Mr. Wall was just exhibiting, was the one that comes out of CMI. The one that Mr. Wall was talking about is basically a template, but the template was one that was created, and it was for example, like the tax budget. And so it looks like that. And so each of those is a different report, yes.
Which those other ones we are still going to do. So the monthly breakdowns from CMI, we're still going to get. The tax budget, where it's 19, or for this time it would be 2021, 22, and then projected 23. We are also still going to get that. The quarterly report is what we're working towards as a synopsis and what it should include, and I'll follow this up with an email, as I'm hearing you say, is the revenues from a monthly, quarterly, from the months within a quarter, year to date, where we're at. And if we're delivering in those bigger buckets, it needs to have line items of what those buckets include in a more presentatory way. Is that okay or no?
So, Madam,
Good.
so all I'm asking for is something that we don't need to reinvent the wheel here. This is a program that already has all that information, every line item. It's going to have the new line item. I question this because when we passed the 2022 budget, I know I came to Ms. Underwood about it. I know I spoke with Mary Jo Zorb about it. There was 2 line items in the Public Works Department, and they totaled almost $300,000. Now, the year before, those 2 line items were there, minus the increase, a 3% increase that every line item got a 3% increase, no matter what. And when I ask, because with that, the last year's money was spent on, I believe, the street sweeper at that point. So when I ask, why is this same amount of money in this line item, what is that money geared for? And they weren't sure yet. And to this point, I haven't seen a report that tells me what's left in that 2022 line item from Public Works that totals almost $300,000. I don't have the report with me.
I know what you're referring to.
Okay. So that's why we need to look at these things line by line item, so that we can determine what's been spent, what it's been spent on. I mean, $300,000 is nothing to sneeze at, but I'd like to know if it's still there.
So, question. The line item by line item document that you're referring to over a span of years, that came as a result, that will not change, but that is not this monthly thing that we're going through or our quarterly thing. So you will still get that, but that's not this report.
Okay, so I don't mean to be rude, but I agree with Ms. Underwood. This makes no sense. This is a checkbook with no titles.
And
If I kept my checkbook like this, I'd have no idea how much. I know, city runs their checkbook different, I understand that, but, and I appreciate the work, but this is not.
I think that's healthy feedback, though, to get the document to a better place.
Right.
So that we can understand it. So that's why I'm going to take away what Mayor Nichols said and draft an email so that we can be clear about expectations forward.
I will
But-
find the document, and I will scan one page so that you'll all know what we're
So
talking.
No, I don't think I do. I remember that document, the latter days. Well, when I first came in,
Sure.
receiving that document.
Yes.
But I'm saying that document is not what we received on a monthly basis.
Right, but we were talking quarterly, and I thought, why couldn't we see that quarterly?
Oh, got it. Okay, so that's what you're saying. You're
And if we could
suggesting
see
that
it
we-
monthly, that would be like icing on the cake, but I don't know how much that poor woman over there can do.
So I feel like if we're gonna, okay.
I have a question, sort
Go
of.
ahead.
So, okay, so based on what you're what you're saying and what you would want to be looking at, you would almost need something that's like, and maybe somebody else already said this and I'm just being silly, but what did we project to spend? What are we spending? And I don't think that's been brought up yet, because in order to compare that $300,000, you would need to know what was originally budgeted for.
Exactly.
So we
Right.
would almost need like a separate column of what was the original budget, and then what is currently been spent this quarter, up to this quarter, or in this quarter, and then what's left. And I don't know if that can be done, but in order for Mary Dewell to kind of understand from what it sounds like she's saying, for us to better understand this, that's a column that we would need.
So
So you're looking for what was projected,
What was originally budgeted? What
of
has been
projection.
spent out of a line item?
spent.
And maybe
actuals,
that's already
let's
in
call it
here
actuals.
and I just don't know, but
It
Okay,
is. That
projected
CMI
actuals.
report is exactly what you were asking. And so when
So-
Mr. Wald was asking about, there were a couple of lines in there that she was asking. One of them, believe you said it was UNC, which stands for unencumbered. So it literally tells you what expense amount was budgeted for the entire year, what has already been paid out, what is not been encumbered, meaning that it hasn't been committed,
correct.
what has been committed, and then what is left from all of that. And that report is, that is what comes out in that CMI report, but it's a 40-page report.
And
That's the one that you all have been getting.
The other thing that I say too, and this I'm trying to manage this better. It's not me, it's not Kirsten, it's just trying to get to the right spot, but getting you the documents before the day of. Getting the documents before the day of gives you the opportunity to read them, because to me, this doesn't look foreign. But that's because I'm looking at it, I'm reading it, I had the opportunity to see it before you
One-on-one.
did. Right. So that's why for me, I'm like, it doesn't look like confusion, but I can understand why you all might feel that way. So helping her to identify what you will need on a document, the more acclimated we get with what this is saying, it won't be as foreign, and you'll be able to plug those numbers in. So there's some training on our part. And like I said, I won't pass the buck. I'll take ownership of getting the documents out sooner. But understand that there are outliers that I can't control.
But Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Pardon me.
Sure.
We already have a document that we have witnessed and read, and you could follow along. I mean, it was almost like a turn to page type. It was that, you could go through it line by line. So we don't need to reinvent the wheel, just give us that. Do we still have access to that program?
Which program?
That gives us that, the one that I'm talking about, the one line by line thing that we have been accustomed to.
Yes, that's
Okay.
CMI that we have.
So
Okay,
you basically want that document on a quarterly basis.
is that possible?
Which is the budget, the document that we give you for the budget.
But they're talking
Right.
about that one that is.
That's the one we give you for the final budget.
Yeah.
For the budget for the
But
next year.
but she's saying do it in a 3 month
Right, that's what I'm
spotlight.
saying.
See that a couple of
Yeah.
times a year.
Madam Chair, my question that I've been asking is it possible to get the CMI in a 2-month period, or is that too short of a period?
We're doing right now. This is a quarterly, so it will be 3 months.
Okay, so 2 month that's not, because if we get that report that's, goes through every department, would it be possible to get it compared to a 2-month period? That way,
Is there a reason why you want to instead of quarterly?
how many pages would it be if the CMI is
Oh.
quarterly?
Same amount.
Same amount.
Yeah,
It's
it's just-
according to your line items on your budget, so that there's still gonna be the same amount
And
of
they'll just
pages.
be moving along in the
Yep.
3-month period,
Yep.
what you just
Right.
said. Then that would be good.
Yeah, that's what we get right now.
Okay, that sounds good.
Does that satisfy the document that she's referring to? Does that satisfy?
I'm just trying to identify what the document is that everyone is referring
Do
to.
you remember
you're-
that document? It had like 2019. Okay, sorry.
If
If
you
I
just
look, I'll look through my
Tell me,
stuff.
right, about when
I mean,
you
isn't
said
that document
that,
just
I
not
can
gonna
find it.
change?
I can find it in my email.
I don't remember what it's called. I will have to look for it myself too.
Yeah, let me look, since I haven't deleted anything.
I mean, what's going to be the difference between that document when we get at the beginning of the year versus the right now? Is there going to be a difference?
It's just gonna
Yeah,
be
there
a
should be.
snapshot over 3 months.
Looks like do you want it 3 months or years? Because I heard years.
Well, they're saying the 3 months from over the year. So this year will be 2020, 21, and 2022 for April, May, and June. Snapshot for April, May, June for 2020. Snapshot.
I remember seeing this document now at the beginning of when I was on council. It was, sorry. It was
I
so
will tell you
expensive.
though, that's an awful lot of work because that document that you guys are referring to is something that was delivered once a year.
This is.
No. There was something that was done like monthly, and it compared last year April to this year April to, right, Mary Devon?
I'm sorry, I'm scrolling.
Are you talking about the document that was given to us monthly? And it would compare like 2019 April to 2020 April to 2021 April?
Yeah, I don't remember the April on there, but I know it compared 2019 to 2021.
But are you talking about the whole year or about 1 month?
Up to that date, whenever we received that, so this was the
Right.
end of the year. So this is a
Exactly.
whole
So it would say
year.
like, right, up till April, this is how much we spent in 2019. Up until April, this is what we spent in 2020.
I would kind of drop the April, because I don't. do
Okay,
you
up
recall
until
if
November,
April's
up
on there,
until
Ron?
this date.
Sorry,
I think it was from January through December.
It did. It went.
Yeah.
But was it?
If you
did-
got
was
something
it-
I'm
like-
confused then
what
because
was the frequency of that document?
Not
a year.
often enough.
That
Because-
was the budget.
Mary, if you're
Was the
saying,
budget.
So it was once a year, right?
so if you're saying you just want what was projected for this year, projected for this year, projected for this year, I don't understand what would change about that every month when you see it or every quarter when you see it. Wouldn't it just be the same document every quarter when you see it?
Not they
If
tell us
money
what they
is
spent.
taken out, like that 2 columns that equal $300,000. Let's say we got that report in the second quarter, and the total went from $300,000 to a total of $50,000. I would want to know what that money was spent on.
So you're
That's
not
the reason why we're saying the variance of
She
like
said that's not the one she's
30,000.
talking about.
right.
Because the reason I want you to, the reason I'm kind of highlighting what you're saying is because the document that you're referring to is a document that was given to us once a year.
No, she's talking about a different document than what you guys are thinking
Okay.
of. That's what I'm trying to get to. She's thinking of money spent. I think you guys are thinking of projected spending or end of the year spending. She's saying we used to get a document, and I think I remember this. Maybe I don't, but it was. She's
Okay.
right. It was
What
up
I
until
have-
this month and this year what was
Try
spent.
this one. Is this the one you're talking about?
Sorry, y'all.
This is the exact one. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to forward this to council, and it gives you, well, there's no titles on this one.
Yeah, you guys are clear too.
I mean, it literally breaks everything down. It gives you the uniform and the clothing, the new hire cost, cell phones and pagers, and a lot of that is just stuff that,
I need
No.
to step out for a second. Can you run while
so I'm going to go ahead and forward this to all of council. So pardon me if you get a duplicate.
So you would like to see this monthly or quarterly, just so I can get it for the minutes?
Come on. Well,
Mary, do you want?
yes, ma'am.
Do you want to see this monthly or quarterly, just so I can get it for the minutes?
Oh geez, I just lost it. I think if it could be quarterly, no, I don't know what the heck I did with it. Found it.
Are you making sure to send it to admin too, and not just us?
I'm sorry, what?
Are you sending it to admin as well as us?
I'm going to send it to the government group, but first I've got to save it to my computer,
Okay.
which is not really working right now.
Do you want me to get it?
Nope.
Okay.
Do you have it?
No, I'm just asking if you want me to do it on your computer.
No. Saving is disabled. How can you fix that?
Do you want
Because
me
it's
to?
probably on a SharePoint site.
Yes, yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So,
This was, what, Matt?
This was the 2020 budget. So they didn't, when I look back through my things, it wasn't for the 21. That was the whole.
So this is
So
what.
that document that you're referring to, is that the document that's a year document?
This was the budget.
Okay, so that's the thing that I want to make sure that we're not doing. We can't have them deliver something that's really set for, that's being prepared over a continuum of a year in every 3 months,
why can't we?
because that's a lot of work.
I don't even know what I need. I'm just trying to. I
Can
don't-
you show Erica that document?
She did. I don't,
Oh, okay.
I don't want that.
Okay.
I just want to find the document that you sent to us before, and then I'll start there.
I knew what she was. This is the one that I thought she was talking about. She was saying that it was something else.
So
I
that
was
is
waiting
the
on
document
her.
that you're talking about, Mary Dewad? The one that they're holding in their hands right now? Because,
Right, but the one that was given to us last year, of course, is newer.
okay, so that is just our budget. So you just want our budget?
Well, I'm going to send it to you,
Okay.
so you should get it. I don't know how long it takes to get from here to there, but
Oh,
There you got
and
it.
There it is.
Well, thank you.
All the way out to Venus and back.
mine was the proposed for 2022 is what I just sent them.
Oh, I remember this document.
Okay, wait a minute. Let me get to it.
Am I on that email?
I sent it to government. If you're not, I'll resend it.
Did you send it to Kirsten too, so she has an idea of
Oh.
what?
Let me see if she's on the government. Yeah, hang on.
Okay.
I must not be on the
I'm
government.
forwarding it to you, Michelle.
Thank you.
So is it, I'm okay with this, if this is what you guys feel like would help the document that Ms. Dewald just sent. Is this something that would be helpful to itemize and to look through, to,
Thank you.
that administration could deliver? Because I realize something that's happening for me is because I'm talking to them more often and I'm looking at it, the information, when it comes across, it doesn't look as blurry. But I remember when I wasn't doing it, how blurry it looked. So I just want to make sure from you all that this will create more transparency, and then this is something that can be upheld on a quarterly basis.
It just takes a Sunday afternoon to see what you're looking at. Then each time you look at it, it's easier to understand what it is. But that is our responsibility, and so that's why I'm really, barking up this tree.
Did you get the document that she's referring to?
I did.
Okay.
I'm looking at
This
it now.
is something different.
Yeah, this one isn't like that one.
Did someone here not get it? Because I just sent it to Kirsten and Lori.
I think the format is different depending on who created it, maybe. That's what it is. But this was still the final budget, correct?
It was. So what was interesting about this, in this particular case for 2022. Oh, yeah, sorry
Thank
about that. So what was interesting about this, and is that this budget was put together honestly by a different person. We had a different person in, there was a person that we had in between Ari and Kirsten. That person was the one who happened to put this budget together this way. So I know that that's where this one came from.
Okay. Is this?
However, if that is something that that council feels is readable and understandable, then that would be something that I think, we could look at to put in, because I believe it has, if I'm looking at this, it has all of the line items in there. It would simply be a matter of,
Plug in the numbers. in.
yes, correct.
So I will say this, though. This is not a quarterly report.
Correct.
So you're not going to see those big bucket tangibles that you're hoping for unless you compare. If this is delivered, say, for instance, in August, you would have to, on your own, then go back and look at the one that was prepared for you in the previous quarter to compare and contrast. Because this does not, the way that this is being tracked, you would not be able to see the previous quarter on this document. You would have to go back and look at the previous one.
But you would see an accumulative. Because you would have, I'm presuming that the next column, like J, would be 2022 expenses. And it would show what we have spent in line item 101.101.521100.
So that's fine, but then now you're asking them to amend this current document and put more on there, which is fine, because if they come back with this, then we need to say, but we also want X line also. So you
Well, I mean, if you just sent us this, I mean, this is just proposed. So,
proposed will be projected, and
Right.
so actual will be where we are year to date. So I'm saying if we got this as of today, year to date, 2022, our proposed line would be 2023. So what's actual or our expenses for this?
oh, you lost me there.
Okay.
Our proposed line will be 2023?
the
Because
next
we're
one.
in 2022 right now.
This document's from
This
2021.
document is from 2021. It says November 2021. So 2021 expense, that was the actual at that time. So for
Right.
now, our actual would be 2022. Our proposed would be 2023 when we actually get a 2023 budget.
Right, but I mean,
So my-
I'm not expecting a 2023 budget yet.
No, I know.
I just want to know what's
So
spent
when-
now.
So when
So-
you're saying it needs to be, what were you identifying needed to be added in line J
2022 actual.
So
against 2022's
Proposed.
proposed.
Yeah.
proposed?
So basically, okay, so
So what we
F would
actually
be-
spent in 2022.
F would be 2020 actual, G would be 2021 actual, H would be 2022 proposed, I would be 2022 actual or expense.
Okay.
I disagree with that. I say leave the columns there that are there right now.
Right, but
29
2021 would become actual because that's already been spent.
Fine,
Okay.
but
2021.
But I'd like to see that historical, and I think that's where Ms. Dewald's looking at too, is you want to look at I'm drawing blank on the word, the history, and that's
Right.
not the word I was looking at, but
Well, may I?
The trend, you mean?
Because-
Is that what you're?
trend, that's the word I was looking for,
Because
thank
by
you.
the time we get this
It's a
report,
tough word.
it's really too late to question what money has been spent because it's done.
But that's going to be always.
Well, if we have a quarterly report, we have a better idea of how much.
Oh, I
and
see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah.
And what line item it's coming from.
And so so that does not negate my previous point. So what I was saying to you all, based on what you're saying and what I hear what you're saying, if we could get a quarterly snapshot of something like this, just plugging in the numbers. So we then would have the responsibility as council members, if we got this report in June, we would have to compare the actual of June to the actual of, let's say, September. Because once they plug the numbers in of the actual, you're only going to see the tangible change from one quarter to the next. You're not going to have an explanation of da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So it will be our responsibility to look back at that previous report and compare it. Because once they put the actual spending in there, it's going to change every quarter.
I have a question. Would the actual be up to date or would it be of that quarter?
It would be of that quarter. Because we cannot deliver to date.
So that's fine. So could they do like each quarter just add a column with a new quarter and then just send us that document? So they're basically just adding on to the document every quarter. They don't really have to do much. It's the same exact document and
First
every
quarter,
single quarter.
second quarter, third
yeah,
quarter,
first
fourth
quarter,
quarter.
second quarter. So it's less
Okay,
work
that's
for
fine.
You. It's easier for us.
That's fine. But if we tell them we want this document, we have to give them the specifics, which is the email that mayor's asking me to give so that
Right.
they know what to deliver.
Exactly.
So what
So-
you're asking is it's quarterly actuals, each quarter
On the same document.
on the same
document.
document.
Right.
Do you understand? I just want to make sure once I draft it in the email. Okay.
Madam Chair,
Would you be okay with that?
and I know you want to get home.
Go ahead. No, it's fine. I already got taken care of now.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
That's
Quarterly.
what I was thinking. That's what I was
So
thinking, because
if-
it'd be
confused why.
If we have this as a quarterly, would it be possible then to have that year end like we're accustomed to, that we can see all the years and then not have to worry about all those quarters at the end of the year?
Can I show you something?
Yes.
Do you
Of
think that this
course.
is doable, Mr. Mosby?
Do I think it's doable?
I mean, because they're putting a lot of expectations out there, and I
Houston.
just want to know, is it even feasible?
No, I think what
Every line item.
is important is to make sure that we know what we're communicating that will be
23 budget,
beneficial
actual
for
year variance.
council to make decisions on, future things, not just,
See,
because
with
I heard a lot of people
titles
talking
and
about
stuff,
in the
it makes it
past.
so much easier.
Yes, you can see the things
This is
that
a program
happened in the
that's already
past,
in
but
your-
that's not, that in and of itself is not necessarily gonna tell you where we're going, right? So I think, so at least if you're asking me,
Okay.
if there's an initiative that's being put forth, I'll use Dumley Park. That might be a good example for me, right? So if you're saying, because here's where I would appreciate what everyone is saying. So let's say that we already know that to build the splash pad in Dumley Park, we're estimating $250,000, right? Now, that would mean everything. So the question might be then, how is that money being spent, or how are we coming along? So if every quarter you're looking at it and it's saying $250,000, it means we haven't spent anything, which would tell council, okay, where are we with this? Are we moving forward with this or not? Now, it could be that we're moving forward, we're putting infrastructure in, we just haven't received the bills yet, which is that point that many of you were just asking, right? Because those things are always in the past. But at least that way, if you're looking at it, you then can look at it and say, okay, this is going toward achieving this objective. So
that's why I'm asking, is this format that they're asking administration for, is that something that you guys can produce quarterly? This document
I think I
on a
would honestly
continuum?
have to yield to Kirsten because she knows that better than I do.
So did you see this document?
That's like what I created.
Okay, but I know, but because we're not all looking at that, I'm gonna default to this document. This document did you get this one?
I did. I tried to look at it on my phone.
And cannot. Okay, here, I'm gonna share it with you on my computer.
It's just small.
So this is like 2019 actual, this is 1 year behind because we're in 2022. So 19, 20, 21, and then this will be the projected for 2022 is as we were in 21.
Right.
So what they're hoping to add is a line item J, and in J, it would tell on that first quarter what has actually been spent within that quarter.
And we
then-
wouldn't need the projected for the next year. I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but I just want to make sure.
Yeah, they don't necessarily want this projected, but I thought Mayor Jo Zorb said she wanted the projected.
I absolutely did not.
Okay, so you're fine with that not having, just to make sure we can get rid of column I.
What?
Why?
We're not getting rid of any single column that's there.
Yes,
That
we
is the
would.
projected.
That's the projected for
Right.
the next year. So
It's
yes.
projected for this year that we're in right now.
No, this is a year
This document
past.
was a year ago.
We're saying, we are gonna, so if.
This was the money that is in the budget today for 2022.
We're not getting rid of the information in that column. We're getting rid of, if this were up to date,
This should
that would
say-
say 2023 proposed.
Okay, may I?
Because this was from 2021.
So
No.
what this new document would look like,
This should say
It would-
2022 budget.
I'm sorry, Misty Walt was
Exactly.
talking.
it would start with 2022 proposed, and then the next column would say first quarter, and it might even give the same balance, it would get or less. And then we would see the same, the 2022, quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, quarter four. And when we get to quarter four, that's going to match the other,
The cleanup budget.
right, the cleanup budget that we get
Yeah.
for the year.
And
Yep.
in addition to the previous years to compare.
So
That does
That's what you're
eliminate
saying.
the
column 2022 should say 2022 budget.
Right, we know, but we're saying you do not want the next year's proposed.
No,
Exactly, that's exactly what we're saying.
That would be
When-
getting rid of column I.
So
Okay,
getting rid of column
no, we
I
won't
would
get
mean
rid-
getting rid of the next
I-
year's proposed budget.
Yes, I'm not
Not getting rid of the information in column
Yes.
I, we're keeping the information in column I and calling it 2022 budget.
You're just changing the header.
Yes.
Yes.
You're keeping
Yeah.
column I, changing
Yes,
the header.
and we're
Yes.
not going to add
Okay,
a column
we're-
that says 2023 proposed. Cool.
The only reason
Until
I'm
the end of the
asking is
year.
because we need
Until
to give them
December, then we will.
instructions. Because honestly, I mean, as much as this is
That's next
frustrating,
month.
Right,
I personally have not been here and a document be delivered and someone said, "Good job, I like this document, keep it." And I would like to get to that.
Right.
So we might as well go through what it's gonna take to get and okay, tweak a little bit here, tweak a little bit there. That's fine. Or can you asking about this, but we need to get to a point where they're delivering and we're okay with it, so that we can actually focus on the information. But every time we come to the table, we're saying it's not enough information. It doesn't have this. It doesn't have that. So let's get to a satisfactory place about the actual document so that we can get to digging into the information, because people are trying to do both at the same time. And then it's just, some people are trying to focus on the line items, while others are saying this document is not palatable for me. So I would like to get to a palatable document that we can all agree on, so that then we can focus on the information.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, I don't know how your program works, but I worked in a division where you could put year after year and just go to infinity, and then just cut the parts you want to send out. Could we look at what we are seeing here for the November 5th, 2021 budget, where it has 19 actual, 2020 actual, 2021 expense? So I think Mr. Mosby knows what I'm talking about. And then at the end of the year, because that's what we would use at the end of the year, you would have 2023 expenses, 2022 expenses, so that it's all formatted right there. But I think for the quarterly, if we could just start with the 2020, what year are we in? 2022 proposed, and start with that, and then put in the first quarter's numbers, second quarter's numbers, third and fourth, and then that would be the end of that document. And then we would receive the one that's already been generated and used for a long, long time with the information. Is that possible?
What I'll take away from this is an email, and then in that email, I'm going to attach this document. I'm going to modify what they're saying. I'm going to send it out just to make sure that this is what they want, and then you let us know if this is something that can be delivered on a quarterly basis.
So Mary Jo and I are saying that we want someone else. So you're saying no, because it's the same thing. It's just we want to add the previous years. You're saying you do not want the previous years to compare quarterly.
No, she's saying she wants the previous years.
To compare quarterly?
Just for the quarterly.
Yeah, you're saying you do not want the previous years to compare for quarterly.
Right, I would like.
And we're saying we do want the previous years to compare for quarterly.
No.
No.
No. So.
I'm so lost.
Sorry.
Okay, so let me
I mean,
say-
it's history
we
at this
would-
point, so I don't care about the quarterly history.
Okay.
I don't.
Do you
Correct.
want the yearly history?
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. She's saying she doesn't. So she's saying all she wants is this year's proposed, this year spent quarter one, this year spent quarter two, this year quarter three, quarter four. We're saying we want what was all spent in 2021 compared to what was proposed for
All right.
2022.
Okay, may I
compared to this
clarify?
quarter, next quarter.
I'm looking at two separate reports.
Right, and we're saying we want that on the quarterly report.
You want all those years on the quarterly report?
It's only 1 or 2 years.
But
Okay.
you're not even gonna,
Well,
okay.
it doesn't, right, it doesn't matter.
You're not even gonna be
cumulative.
able to, so if you're looking at 2019 actual,
2020.
Yep.
2022 actual, and 2021 actual.
Yep.
If we're in 2021, if you're on June, you cannot look at those past years in 2019 and 2022 and even compare, because one is a synopsis of the entire year,
Right.
while the other is the actual to date, or to that quarter date. So you wouldn't even be able to compare it anyways.
So the quarterly report would look different than the year-end report.
Because you're gonna have these big buckets. They're just the actuals
All right,
in
you convinced
2019
me.
and
You can
20.
take off the previous years. That's fine. I don't feel like arguing it, and I get why it wouldn't make sense, so that's fine. I'm not.
Because if
I'm
you're
not
gonna,
I don't want
compare-
to.
it- no, it's if I'm not
No, I
trying
really
to
do.
argue.
I really
I'm
do
literally
see where
saying
you're
if
How
coming
about
from,
the
that's
first
fine.
one? The first one we get the previous years, and then you can take it off and just give us.
Till the end.
Yep.
Okay.
That makes
And we
that
just
makes
keep
sense
that,
to
and
me.
if we want to compare, we can do it ourselves.
Perfect.
How's that?
That's fine.
Is that a
fair.
compromise?
Because if you're comparing apples to apples, so that you can actually see the change, you can't compare 6 months to an entire year.
I get that, but it's still nice to see what was spent previously.
Okay, that's
We have
fine.
that in the previous year's total year document.
Yeah, but I don't have all the documents with me. I'll take it
Okay,
out.
so this is the follow-up of this. I'm gonna send out an email as Mayor Nichols requested with everything that you said here tonight. I will then modify this document to look like what it should look like. I'll send it to Kirsten and Mr. Mosby and Mayor Nichols, and they can let us know if this is deliverable on a quarterly basis. Are you guys okay with that?
Maybe she can do a mock run.
Right now, get it together.
Okay.
A mock run. when she
Here's
sends it to you,
here's the other part
just
of it.
throw in some numbers and send it back and say if this is what you're looking for.
Here, so that's what I was gonna do. I was gonna take the onus of to putting that in. Here's the other part of that. Do you all want her to present this, or are you okay with just receiving the information?
How about we start with receiving information, let her get that under her belt, and then if we feel like it's still confusing, then we can rediscuss it.
Okay, now here's the other one. What's the lead time so that she's clear on how much? Because you guys got to remember that if we're going to do quarterly, we're going to do it that month or 2 months after, right? So if we were doing, we did,
Let's just say we did the first quarter.
yes.
We wouldn't receive the information until,
So if we did January, February, March, we would not receive it in April. We would receive it
even in
in
May.
May. So how far in advance to the financial or the budget and finance meeting do you need to receive the documents to review so that you guys feel like you have a fair opportunity to review the documentation? Because she can actually send the information out and then we can do the agenda later.
I mean, what's the earliest you could send it to us?
Say, my answer is as
That's
soon
her
as
answer.
A
possible.
week to 5 days.
You know, I'm a department of one, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hopefully not forever,
So
though.
can you, when I send this to you, can you tell us when, based on your workload, when you would fairly be able to send this document out to prepare for a quarterly delivery of this information? And by delivery, I'm not saying PowerPoint, I'm just saying to talk about this in detail.
I will give you an answer once I see what it is you want. what you're
Okay.
requesting.
Right.
That's fair. And the other thing is, in the scope of these meetings, there's no way that we're going to be able to get all of this done. So on those times when we're delivering quarterly, we need to set out a big block unless there's legislation to talk about that. Because
Absolutely.
coming to 10 and 9 o'clock at night every single time on finance is taxing on everyone.
Certainly.
So on those, we'll have just absolute what is needed. Like tonight, we had to take care of some legislation. Is everybody okay with that? And I'll do my part to follow up to make sure that we're getting to closer to what is going to be something that we can use.
So, Madam Chair,
Yes.
while we're traveling down that road then, would your idea be that we would meet on a Saturday for, say, 2 hours? But then, are we going to have to meet before the next council meeting so we know what the heck we're all doing, or the next committee meeting?
I think if she can send it out ahead of time, we can come together with read information and questions so
Okay.
that it's not so
Perfect.
taxing. So that's why I'm also trying to deal with the lead time on this actual information. Okay. So we can close that and go to audit results. I'm going to let Mr. Mosby take this one.
Actually,
Madam Chair.
Yes,
Sorry,
sir.
Madam Chair, it is, okay, well, I apologize. It is 9:15. It's hot and I'm really, really tired. And that's like, we have quite a bit to talk through. I have questions about the audit results. I don't want to be here for another 2 hours, though. I don't know what we do about
We
that.
have
but-
two more, after that, we have two more items
can
on there
save
that'll
the-
blow through really, really fast.
Yep.
So the audit results, actually, I think he has resolved everything in a perfect form. He can actually just tell you what has happened, and I think we'll blow through that one as well. I mean, we cannot change what the audit results were, and I'll just say they've solved everything. And I'll let him go, well, most of everything, right?
I'm sorry, yeah, I mean, basically, the audit results came out. I think that there was only one matter, that there were some, to be clear, there were some documentation from specific transactions that had been looked at that we were not, or at least I wasn't made aware that they were actually looking for those. The bottom line is we got them to them, and so they are looking to change and correct
And I'm
that
just
in the
asking for
audit.
clarity. I know the answer to this, but every single documentation that they're asking
Correct.
of us, we have isolated and we are getting them to
No,
them.
we got them to them.
Okay.
That was done last week.
And so the thing that I wanted to follow up on that is the 2020 report will show, it actually does show a surplus. So, right?
Correct.
And then the documentation. So this is how that will work. We will turn that into them. They will pull back the existing inaudible status, and then they will reissue. So we'll be in after they get the documentation that they need, then they will reissue another like status towards our audit for that year. So we should not stay in the same status once we provided that documentation. And at this point, we have complied with the things that were on their list to give to them that made us have the status that earned us the status that we have.
I have a question,
Yes.
and maybe you can't answer it right now, and that's okay. The article that was released, since all of it has been resolved, is there any way the city could reach out to get them to update that article so that way accurate representation?
We're in communication with them. I'll have to
Good.
leave it at that right now.
Okay. I just
And
want to
I-
make sure.
But
I
to
wanna-
be clear, though, it's the credit card part. I mean, there were multiple items in that article that were not just the credit card charges.
Right, I know, but if we
Those
can
haven't-
get that thing clear to say, hey, the city paid it.
And I don't want to go, I'm sorry, were you finished?
Yes. thank you.
Okay. I do not want to go on without saying thank you for getting that resolved quickly. I've been through audits. I've been through numbers not matching with organizations. The way that this rolled itself out, it was not something that we would know, that we knew that we would need to produce. They didn't even tell them first. And so they were able to quickly turn that around. And I want to say thank you. And we appreciate that, because what else can be done?
Okay, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I just have a question. I don't think I'm looking at the same thing that you're talking about.
Okay.
So I'm looking at the management letter. Is that something different from what you're talking about?
I looked at the, I just
There's a
pulled up
bunch
the
of stuff.
report. Mr. Mosby, she's saying she's looking at the management letter.
May I look?
Yes.
Part of it is in there, but yes, it is the management.
No, I don't have that letter.
No, I pulled up the letter that was on the actual, your website.
Yes, that's what this is.
Oh, no, you gotta look, because some of them look like they fall under us, but they were actually other places. Is that what you're looking at?
No, it was all us. Like,
Okay.
for example, it talks about it was unethical for the head of a department to hire his son to work for him. That is specifically directed to us. And I don't understand how, well, I guess it's resolved at this point since they're both gone, but, I mean, this is what I'm talking about, so.
Oh, okay.
That doesn't sound
So
like.
the ethics
that's what
part,
you're
I
talking
didn't read
about.
it. No, I was only referring to the finance part of it, not that stuff.
Okay,
So-
so,
I'm sorry.
Go
Can I-
ahead.
So I'd like to add on to that and ask, do we have a policy in place now that prohibits that type of thing?
Well, the report just came out, so we have meetings and everything scheduled to combat some of these procedures and to actually go over what was in there and look at their suggestions and put different things in place.
Okay.
So we have to, what was that last Wednesday?
It's been a couple weeks
Thursday.
because we were here
I got it on
But
September
they didn't
2nd.
release it. You were here probably during, that was August 15th.
in the draft.
They didn't release it until last week.
Mm-hmm.
I
That's
didn't
when
get
I
it
saw
Really
until-
quick, do you mind if I
last
get a
week.
copy of that management letter? Because I don't have that either.
You can just Google it. I mean, she can send it, but it's also there to Google.
So I'd
Would you
also,
mind sending that to me, Miss? Underwood?
She's going to
Thanks.
forward it to me. We can send it on to council.
You're amazing. Thank you.
I'd also like to make sure everyone, all of us, know that there's some stuff about us in there.
Absolutely.
And it's not pretty, so
Right.
we need to make sure that we've got our ducks in a row too. It's not all on administration.
Right,
We
like
have
there
some
was
onus.
there was some mandatory training that we were
Yes.
supposed to
Yep.
take, and we didn't, so.
That is exactly right.
um,
And I
sent this
believe
to
Mr.
government
Mosby
again.
sent out an email that said that, sent us a link. Was it a link or just a?
No, it was a link.
Thank you. Sent us a link, so we must all go get that training done.
Yes, I
So
agree.
How about we plan to have that training done by next budget meeting? Is that possible for to get done this month?
No, you have to find a place that's,
I thought it was online.
It's virtual. ain't
I
it?
thought it was virtual.
It's virtual.
if it's online, we could sit here as a group, because I think doing it one-on-one, it's not going to be effective.
And I can work towards working together. I'll send out an email about the schedules. And
Yeah.
we'll get together.
Yeah.
So schedule
Do we need to do it on camera since we'd all be together?
training.
No, it's training.
It's training.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I can come whenever.
I can start the communication for
That
that.
would be perfect, thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Anything else? Okay. And then the last one, well, not the last one, the code enforcement line item.
So, okay, yeah, I can take this over. So, okay, so right now code enforcement really doesn't have much to go off of. So they have a bunch of things that they are trying to implement. Well, not even implement, that they're trying to enforce, because they're more of an enforcement branch. And they can't really do that given no budget. So there's a fine or fee, I don't quite know what it's listed as, where it's like $500 for a vacant house. So if you have a vacant house, you have to pay this amount of money to North College Hill. They, at the task force meeting, somebody said that they're pretty sure it accumulates to, was it a couple thousand, a few thousand, maybe up to 100,000, something like that, yearly. And they were hoping that that money could be set aside, since it's vacant house fee anyway, could be set aside for nuisance abatement, which they could then use to take care of those vacant houses or of those torn down houses that have nobody living in them, or that do have somebody living in them, but they're so horribly kept that, and people are refusing to do anything about it, that they can then take care of it. So it would just be an ordinance that would set aside the money that's taken in, the revenue, the money that's taken in from the vacant house fine or fee would then get directly put into a line item, which would be spent for nuisance abatement. And Dieters is putting up a draft right now. It's one of my deadlines that I got for him. He's getting a draft right now, but we wanted to discuss it with you guys at this committee meeting first before he puts together a draft and you guys say absolutely not. So that's what that is.
So my opinion is have him proceed. I don't know how anybody else feels.
Proceed with the legislation.
Yes.
Anybody else have any opinions? All right, well, I'll make sure that he has it ready for next month's meeting. Thank you, that's all. Thanks for giving me that time, Ms. Dukesine.
Then the next item on the agenda is the appropriation amendments. We had already talked about this, so at our next council meeting, we're gonna have appropriations, or we'll have a line item for the increased monies for impound lot. We're moving that to council meeting, and the appropriation for recreation. And Annalisa talked about that, Ms. Clear, at our last budget and finance meeting, where she would need a line item to receive the monies that she's getting donated.
I hear you using the word appropriation. Do you
I may not
do you
be
mean
using
that?
I may not mean that. I'm sorry.
You just mean a line in the budget
Yes,
that
yes, that's
revenue
what
can
I
go
mean.
in? All right, thank
It
you.
is 9.
Well, actually, she does mean appropriation. It's a revenue appropriation, so she would be able to
Right.
receive money. So when she gets grant money, when it comes in, what we would do is we would apply it to a revenue line for recreation, and in that way, it could be.
But we're not appropriating money out of the budget to
Not
go
of our
into this
general
line
budget,
item.
no.
That's what I'm asking.
I'm sorry, say that again?
We're not appropriating money out of the general fund into these line items to be
Well,
used.
for the impound lot, yes.
For
You're just
recreation-
talking about recreation, is that correct?
For recreation, what I know going into that line, are you talking about a new line?
To be clear, yes, there's checks arriving for sponsorships, for vendor booth fees, things like that, that are recreation program related revenue. Currently, there is no line item in the revenue or receipts or however that's broken out
Right.
to capture that funding. And furthermore, some of it, like if a donor specifically says it's for this thing, then it has to be for this thing. So we need to be able to distinguish that from other types of receipts and things that come in just generally.
You just need a separate fund.
Right, but I want to make
Isolated
sure
fund.
you're clear that because of that particular thing on the agenda, the impound lot, there is a line item that we will be taking from our general funds and putting in that line item until we get paid. It's in order to cover the cost of the tow trucks and all of that.
So
And we had
basically a startup fund.
yes,
Right.
How much are we
Madam Chair,
talking?
That takes a while. It doesn't happen overnight.
right,
correct? Right.
absolutely. Now the amount is Mr.
We
Mosley.
looked at through the end of the year, 17,000.
End of this year.
And then we're in new business. And the new business is the opioid, the grant or monies received. We did get it, and we are getting $1,700 a year for the
exciting.
next, I think, 15 years.
Can you repeat that?
So,
1,700?
well, yes, $1,700 per year
I did talk with him.
for the next
He
15
didn't.
years. I think the total amount is 28,000.
All right.
And it's $1,700 a year.
15.
I don't know, however, let me see, I calculated, it. I sent the information. For the next 16 years. I think it said 15 years.
And what do we need to use this on? Like what? Do we have to spend it on a certain thing? Do we need to do a certain thing with it?
That one I'm not sure of. Typically, when you do have monies that come in like that, it usually is
Right.
directed toward like special programs
Right.
for that. But I'll have to go back and ask them about that one.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
not
go-
sure.
Can you send us an email right when you know that? When you find out that answer,
Oh,
can you
right,
send us an email?
yes.
Thank you.
Any other new business?
Yes, actually. So we had a bit of good news. We like good news. Chief Fells and is a Lieutenant Plackey. Some
Yeah, he's the deputy. He's one of the deputy chiefs.
at the fire department got another grant.
Yeah,
For $54,000. Wow. So for some kind of leadership training or whatever, and I just want to just again point out that they are go-getters and doing great things, and
And who was this that got the
congratulations.
grant? Who was this that got the grant?
Deputy Chief
Deputy
Plackey.
Chief Plackey and Chief Phillips.
Fire department, okay.
Yes, fire department.
Thank you.
So, yeah, they are, yes, wow, I know. Also, I had a question about the generator quote. What are we doing with that?
Well, we did get the quotes. You're all right. They're pretty steep. I will be the first to say that. I think a lot of that is going to be somewhat dependent on what the goal is going to be as far as this building is concerned. Because if they're going to be, obviously, if they're going to be there for a while, then that's something that we would need to look to. If it's something that we think that they're not, then I don't know that we would invest that kind of money into it for just a short period of time.
Wait, I'm sorry, what would this be a generator for?
The generator would be for the public safety building at 1646.
And you're
West
saying they
Galway.
wouldn't be in that building for long?
Well, I said depends on what, for example, what is the goal or what is the vision for this building? Are we planning on moving, the public safety people down this way? And if so, what kind of time frame we're looking at? So, I mean, if we're looking at 5 to 10 years, yes, and the answer is yes. I had already started and asked them to look into or incorporating that into the budget for 2023. But again, if a lot of that would be dependent on, again, what is looking to be done in this with this building or this land or area.
How much was the quote for?
There were several, but the minimum was like 200. The other ones went as high as 300.
1,000?
Yes.
Yeah, not dollars.
That sentence.
Hey, I got that.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes,
And-
300. Yes, $300,000.
It is 9:30.
And I think, and I was gonna say, I think that I deferred the building renovation item off this list because this list was so heavy tonight.
Right.
And I didn't want to
Thank
put
you.
that on the agenda as well, but we can resume that and pull that part of the information into that conversation.
Now,
So
the
what the-
generator is for the other building.
I know, but he had said, well, depending on what we do with this building, whether we move those people down here or not. So that's the reason why I said we can defer that conversation. With that, is there any other new business?
How much did you say that grant was for the fire department?
54,000.
54,000. Thank you, that's all.
Old business?
Going once? Going twice?
Going home.
Well, thank you for the meet tonight. And we will adjourn at 9:26.
I just shared the minutes with you. I think they're all done, but I would double check.